Part 184. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1834. Jiurong returned to the Geo family with a beautiful but not earthly girl, and the Geo family was tolerant of this. Because under interstellar technology, people on Earth have long been accustomed to combining with men and women from surrounding planets. Of course, this needs to be in line with the aesthetics of people on Earth, especially in terms of size. It must be the same as people on Earth, even if it is a powerful creature that doesn't grow too big. The beauty brought back by Jiurong is naturally in line with the aesthetic standards of the people on Earth, and she is an extremely beautiful woman on Earth and even in her own home galaxy, so everyone is still more concerned about this. Satisfy. Hello, I am Jiurong's girlfriend. After the female reporter came to Jia's house, she behaved calmly and generously. She was not too scared or overly arrogant, but rather cautious and polite enough in her speech, which made everyone very satisfied. Yes, Jia Yan's son was born right, and he can still find such a beautiful girl. Jia's father, Jia Sheng, was extremely satisfied with Jiurong's ability to find such a beautiful woman. Now that he, the head of the family, has long been unable to find other relatives, the Geo family can flourish and become an Orion arm. The son he gave birth to was a top-notch family in Ledoux, and then other people in the family were also powerful, so he was happy. The old man has no other pursuits. Even though he has learned a lot of cultivation basics and deeds due to better resources and teaching, which has resulted in his not being low in strength, Jia Sheng actually doesn't look like he can survive at all at this time. People who are hundreds of years old look like old people, but they look very young. The same goes for Jia Mu, who looks like she is about 30 years old now. But because she has lived the life of a middle-aged and elderly person for a long time, she is still conservative at heart, even if she has no problems due to the power of technology and good maintenance. She has undergone any kind of surgery and has shown a lot of beauty, but in reality, she also wants to see many children and grandchildren. Thank you, grandparents, for your compliments. The female reporter cuddled up next to Jiurong and kept showing off her affection. The two were already inseparable and looked completely in love. It can be seen that both parties like each other more. After all, Jiurong is a strong person. If the other party does not really like him, a strong person will definitely be able to tell. Very good, you two can chat among yourselves. Wrong, your house is still in the original place. She just arrived at our house, don't you want to arrange a place to stay? Jiurong felt a little embarrassed when his grandfather was so direct. What kind of arrangements are there? Don't we understand what's going on with you young people? Just live in the same place. We'll make sure it's done. Jia Sheng quite understood his grandson's heart and arranged for the two young men to be together. You old fool. Jia's mother couldn't help laughing and scolding Jia Sheng. Several people laughed together. At night, in Jiurong's residence, Jiurong hugged his alien girlfriend and told about the Jia family. So, isn't your status in the family strange? The female reporter was a little surprised because she heard Jiurong actually talk about his unhappy life in Jia's family during his childhood. It's not that exaggerated, it's just a little estranged. Now it's better. You see, the family is happy and we are completely like a family. It's just that my status and identity are still very embarrassing. Fortunately, at least the outside world knows about me. He is the eldest son of the Geo family, so I don't have such a big shadow. Jiurong shook his head, seeming to reveal the biggest secret in his heart, and then he somewhat understood what was going on in his heart. To be honest, after learning about aliens and vaguely knowing the method used by his mother, Satsumakan, to conceive him, Jiurong, who has become completely accustomed to the thinking of Earthlings, already understands Jia Yan's methods. It's understandable, but the knot in my heart still exists. So now he is thinking whether he should have a good talk with Jia Yan, not only to completely solve the status problem in Jia's family, but also to know what Jia Yan really thinks. But just when Jia Rong thought about this, he only heard an embarrassing cough outside the house. Who? Jia Rong was shocked. It was no small matter. You must know that this is the Jia family, the entire Earth, and even most of the surrounding star field, can be regarded as a tightly guarded place. Even around here, there must be clones of Jia Yan. Ordinary strong people, let alone it is a star level, and even the galaxy level is inaccessible, because that clone is likely to be as powerful as the Jia Yan clone in the outside world, and the galaxy level can kill it. So how could he not be surprised when someone's voice came out? But after listening carefully, Jia Rong felt relieved. At the same time, there was also a bit of tension. Because this voice is exactly the Jia Yan he was talking about just now, but it must be a clone. But Jia Yan's clone is no different from his real body. At least now, Jia Rong has long forgotten that Big Mosquito is his father. Whenever he thinks of his father's appearance, Jia Yan, who is completely from Earth, flashes in his mind. But at this time, he did not panic for long, and then asked his girlfriend, the reporter, to get dressed quickly. He also believed that his father would not use his brainwave power to read anything, not to mention that if he wanted to, even if no matter how neatly they are dressed, with the brainwave power of such a terrifying and powerful man, what clothes can they not see through? So not long after, when she knew who was coming, the reporter's girlfriend followed Jia Rong outside Jia Rong's own villa with a nervous look on her face. They only saw, under the bright night sky, a man standing quietly under the starry sky with his hands clasped behind his hands, giving him a sense of ecstasy and ecstasy. "Dad, Dad!" Jia Rong screamed in embarrassment. Jia Yan's clone, who had always been a protective presence for the people on Earth, slowly turned his head. What kind of eyes are these? Not only the female reporter who met Jia Yan in person for the first time, but also Jia Rong, who had met Jia Yan many times, was dazzled by Jia Yan's clone's eyes at this moment, and almost fell into the world of his eyes, unable to extricate himself. These were just natural looks. Jia Yan didn't want to do anything to them. Of course, he didn't deliberately restrain his looks. Not long after, Jia Rong quickly withdrew his attention because his strength was still good. But his girlfriend, the female reporter, felt a little gritted for a moment. Ah! Jia Yan smiled unconsciously, and his smile was very mysterious. "Dad, what are you doing?" When Jia Rong saw Jia Yan acting like this, he was a little angry. Although he had said that he had looked away after so many years, the reality was against Jia Yan, and Jia Yan immediately treated his girlfriend, so of course he was angry. Jia Yan continued to smile without answering, but made his eyes no longer so brilliant. In an instant, the reporter's girlfriend also recovered from the world that she couldn't extricate herself from. "Xiao Rong, the girlfriend you brought back is pretty good. Also, your mother has just come back. Please spend more time with her." Jia Yan smiled and looked kindly at Jia Rong. However, Jia Rong still had a look of anger and hatred. But the female reporter was a little evasive for a while. There is definitely something wrong with her behavior. But she probably didn't know that under the gaze between her and Jia Yan, everything about her was already invisible. A strong person is really not that simple. Even if Jia Yan cannot read minds, at least he knows whether a creature is acting against his own will. But at this moment, Jia Yan didn't say anything, because he also saw that this female reporter had something inside, and she really liked his son Jia Rong. Since she also likes it, and there is no murderous intent in her eyes, it seems that the host behind it is definitely not someone who wants to harm anyone, but probably just wants a chess piece. But all this still annoyed Jia Yan. After having a conversation with Jia Rong, Jia Yan followed him and sat in Jia Rong's villa together as Jia Rong's attitude gradually improved. After Jia Yanla gave Jiarong a lot of instructions in a paternalistic tone, he left. But while Jiarong looked excited, his girlfriend, the female reporter, suddenly felt a little dizzy after Jia Yan left. Because Jia Yan's voice rang in her ears. "You are very good, you are indeed a kind person, and you like my son very much. It's just that there is someone behind the scenes. If you are willing to tell me who the leader is, I will only deal with that leader. If you are not willing to tell, then the star field you are in, is called the Dazhong star territory, right? If I pull out my hand after a while, this star field will be destroyed." Buzz. The female reporter felt as if her head was about to explode. And she was sweating. Jia Yan was indeed strong to the extreme. She knew just now that everything about her had been seen through by the super strong man. But she had always thought that at most this strong man was just trying to deal with her. But now she saw that this strong man also saw that she really liked Jiarong, and what she wanted to deal with was the power behind her. "Even if you don't say it, then you will destroy the star territory." It seems that he also thinks that she is his daughter-in-law. But the hands and feet behind the back must be cleared. That night, just as she wanted to go out for some fresh air, the female reporter came to a jungle and called out. Jia Yan's clone came to her like a ghost. "Uncle, hello, uncle. Well, don't be afraid. You are indeed a good boy. It's just that someone is intimidating you. I can tell at a glance." Jia Yan could tell at a glance that this was not the case. It was just that he had known the information about his son for a long time, and through certain connections, he had obtained the female reporter's information. It was even so detailed that she would feel her scalp tingling if she saw it in person. The level of hemp. So Jia Yan knew that her meeting with her son Jiarong was indeed an accident, but after they got along, some people jumped out, either by coercion or inducement, or by something else. At least Jia Yan needs to understand whether this temporary daughter-in-law has promised anything. If he really had any bad intentions, then Jia Yan wouldn't care about it. Uncle, they are threatening my parents and family, otherwise I will definitely not agree to them, and they only want me to give some information. They did not say they want to harm the Geo family, let alone deal with them Earth and the Orion arm. I believe this, but the Geo family is not so easy to mess with. In fact, if you don't tell me, I just investigated and found out that he is the major shareholder behind that media company, right? It's really ridiculous that such a small person actually leaked the information. The idea is on my Geo family. Well, you don't have to worry, I still like you very much, as long as I live a good life with my son. If there are any bad people, you tell your uncle and I will solve it for you. Jia Yan nodded kindly, and then chatted in a very amiable manner. It was obvious that he was quite satisfied with his daughter-in-law. As for the person who made the decision, he didn't think about his wife at all, because suddenly a commoner like being approached the high-ranking prince and wanted to take advantage of the power of this commoner woman. This is a manifestation of the lack of strength of the common people. At this time, there is no need to blame the common women, as long as they show the power of the king. The next day, the female reporter received a piece of news from afar as soon as she got up. The major shareholder of the media behind her was almost a top-notch person in their star field, and the entire family was eradicated overnight. Even the stock market stocks behind him were transferred to the family of the female reporter. She is the person with the most power and the most money. This. Not to mention the hundreds of light years, the news reached him so quickly. Just saying that Jia Yan's terrifying influence actually brought a powerful person in their star field to Shiyuan uprooted. This terrifying influence almost made the female reporter deeply understand how terrifying the word Jia family is. What's wrong? Jia Rong, who had no idea, put his arms around this beautiful female reporter. It's nothing. Let's go and say hello to your grandparents and your parents. No need, our family doesn't have such rules, it's just a small family. Still a small family. After hearing this, the female reporter wanted to beat up her boyfriend. The Geo family is called a small family. In the surrounding star field, even the family no longer exists. In fact, the next female reporter was more reserved than yesterday's Logo and generous. She was even nervous and kept saying the wrong things, causing others to try to smooth things over. Others didn't know that she was really scared. A group of Geo family members who have no idea how great they are, and a boyfriend who looks down upon his own family. This family is really a bit weird. Hee, this little guy is quite well behaved. Looking at the girl who, although a little shy, has integrated into her family, Jia Yan's clone smiled slightly. After settling the family matters, the next step is the war. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1835. Jiarong has a partner, which is a unique feeling for Jia Yan. At first, I thought it was a bit magical. After all, he had never done anything like that, and then he had a son out of nowhere, let alone someone who could really be considered a son by blood. Then he was relieved. He felt that his son could give full play to his talent and might not be able to become the new guardian of the earth in the future. Moreover, after having his son's heir, the future protector of the earth would be considered a successor. Finally, he was happy. He was happy for his son, and he was also happy that he might become a grandfather. In fact, the races on both sides are roughly similar. Earthlings are 10 months pregnant, and the race of the female reporter is also similar. So Jia Yan is wondering if this war does not need to end, and he can see his grandson. This feeling is magical. Therefore, Jia Yan didn't think much about it today, and his clone entered Satsuma's room. The next day, the clone flew out of the house, as if all the conflicts and problems had been resolved. After he flew away, Satsuma-chan, who was still a little shy, walked out of the house in a charming manner. Looking at Jia Yan's clone disappearing into the distance, there seemed to be a sense of spring shining in his eyes. It goes without saying what happened overnight. In short, the two people who seemed to have been married for a long time have finally finished the matter. Moreover, Jia Yan's clone did it for him, although it is no different from his real body. From this point on, Jia Yan truly accepted the concept of Satsuma Kono as his wife. Although everyone had long been accustomed to this concept, for him, it was at this moment that he accepted it in his heart. This point. Jia Yan's clone didn't really leave, but found a place and sank into the ground again with a smile. Then, he put all his energy on his real body and clone to deal with the upcoming war. Oh! Jia Yan, why are you so happy suddenly? Did something good happen? At the castle, the Zerg Queen asked Jia Yan with a smile that was no less than that of Satsuma. For some reason, her eyes always seemed to see through everything, so Jia Yan felt that they must have seen what she had done. Of course, at least she shouldn't be able to tell who Jia Yan did what with. In short, Jia Yan was very embarrassed. Ahem, it's nothing. Your Majesty the Queen, I'm going to start taking action. Please watch the next battle clearly. Okay, actually I know without you having to say that you are going to start fighting. The Zerg Queen nodded expectantly. The purpose of her coming to the Orion Arm is to see Jia Yan's combat effectiveness. If Jia Yan's combat effectiveness or future talent is enough, then she will leave with Jia Yan. Of course, all this depends on Jia Yan himself. If he is not willing, the Zerg Queen will not force it. After all, he has reached the galaxy level and is a genius. If he is really provoked, he will go to the opposite side in the future and attack the Zerg Queen. It's unnecessary trouble. After Jia Yan quietly dropped the topic, he breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, yesterday was the first time in his 2 lives that he graduated from the status of Chun, and the partner was the charming wife from Satsuma Temple. Jia Yan had nothing to be dissatisfied with. In fact, he was thinking that Satsuma had become an earthling for a period of time. If he accepted the other party's words from the beginning, he would definitely not feel this way. After all, Satsuma was originally from another race and had no control over everything human beings. If she is not used to it and her mentality is different, then even if Jia Yan reluctantly stays with her, he will definitely not have any good feelings. But now it's different. Jia Yan accepts her. Satsuma Kono, who has been on Earth for more than a few decades, is already an outstanding intellectual beauty on Earth, so Jia Yan can accept her personality and ideas, and the two of them are very harmonious. Jia Yan was thinking in his heart, but at the same time he was already controlling his real body and countless clones, and began to make arrangements on the battlefield. In fact, the battlefield between the Earth and the opponent has never stopped fighting. Even though it is reported that Jia Yan has once again defeated a group of Galaxy-class enemies, it is still not easy for the enemy to retreat. The enemy's fleet, at least in terms of its current strength, still has an advantage. Although such an existence is weak compared to Jia Yan, compared to the entire Orion Arm fleet, the enemy's strength is still daunting. "My lord, are you coming to our ship and preparing to become a guard?" A battleship captain who was suddenly designated as his ride by Jia Yan's clone felt a little strange about the sudden arrival of Jia Yan's clone. After all, it was no secret to them that Jia Yan's clone always walked out of certain battleships, so the captain was suspicious that he looked like a strong man with a semi-star level existence in front of him. Could it be one of Jia Yan's clones? Of course, it doesn't matter even if he knows, but Jia Yan doesn't want his news to leak out. In short, it's fine if everyone knows. "That's right, I am the one who is stationed on your battleship this time. You don't need to worry about me. You should fight along the way. If you don't fight, don't send any resources. I will be on your ship. If there is any danger, I will take action myself." Jia Yan's clone nodded lightly. Okay." With such an attitude, the other party even concluded that this clone of Jia Yan was a clone of Jia Yan. Although he guessed it correctly, in fact, as long as Jia Yan didn't say it, there was nothing to be happy about, and he couldn't even be with him. No matter what others share, after all, for a soldier, the confidentiality agreement is the most basic thing to abide by. So the captain looked constipated as he watched Jia Yan arrive at a secret place inside a battleship. Then he could only escort Jia Yan's clone and keep fighting in the battlefield. Bang bang bang. In the starry sky, warships are constantly being detonated, and warships are constantly rejoining the battlefield. In such a high-intensity war, the captain of the battleship no longer dared to think too much about Jia Yan being Jia Yan's clone. In short, he had completely devoted himself to the war. As a result, the more devoted he was, the better the battleship's combat effect became. Because there are 3 other venerables besides Jia Yan in this battleship. These 3 venerable masters can also jointly perform Jia Yan's Yin and Yang Dao combined skills, so their combat effectiveness is good. In fact, in the later stages of the war, the people and even the powerful in the Orion Arm are studying Yin and Yang Dao, because the effect of Yin and Yang Dao is much stronger than any known fighting method, and even those who do not learn Yin and Yang will be regarded as aliens. Therefore, there are more people who can join forces, and suddenly all the warships in the entire Orion Arm battlefield are difficult to deal with. Of course, it must be so difficult to deal with. After all, it is absolutely impossible for at least one of the previous Orion Arm battleships to defeat one of the enemy. But now, because of the emergence of the joint trick, so the creatures in Orion's arms have now become somewhat capable of dealing with enemy warships, and can even kill warships of the same level in a 2-on-1 situation. This is an incredible improvement. Boom! A battleship exploded suddenly around the battleship. The friendly ship was destroyed. Damn it, we all rushed to the edge of the enemy's position. It's too dangerous. Stay back. Where to go? When the captain of this battleship was too involved in the war, the battleship was able to fight all the way to the front and rear of the formation without any obstruction. He suddenly found that the battleship he controlled actually flew to the center of the battle line between the enemy and ourselves in one breath. In this way, their battleship was at the forefront. It was obviously just the rear, but it actually ran to the front. This made him feel a little scared. After all, compared to the strength of the forward battleship, their battleship was still weak. But just as they were retreating, a powerful battleship quickly arrived. This battleship is naturally driven by the enemy, and the strong person on it has the feeling of strength, that of a star-level existence. This star-level being is the mainstay of the enemy fleet. Originally, stars like theirs were as powerful as nuclear weapons. But now, due to the war between the Orion Arm and the coalition forces, it has been upgraded to the galaxy level. A large number of people died, so stars like them became second-class existences in the war. They could appear anywhere on the battlefield because their status was no longer as high as before. Of course, this does not mean that the stellar class is not powerful. The existence of the stellar primary class can easily deal with the Orion Arm battleship with only 3 venerable class in front of it. On the other side, in the super-large main battleship with several half-stars, the strong men of the Orion Arm all exclaimed, secretly cursing how dare this mid-tier battleship come here. Even though they were scolded, they still came to the rescue one by one. Several half-star level yin-yang masters, working together, have proven to be more than enough to deal with an enemy at the primary level of a star. Moreover, the strong men in Orion's arms have become completely consistent with the outside world after the war. Even if they are unhappy with this intrusive warship, no one will really give up on the other. And just like these half-stars, they all swam towards the battlefield here like a charge, but they were still half a beat behind. Buzz. An earth-shattering sound of brainwave power suddenly appeared from the battleship locked by the star class. What? Half-star brainwave power, could it be that there is a half-star in this mid-tier battleship? Since there is a half-star class, why didn't this battleship join forces with us just now? This is simply unreasonable. This is already a waste of time. No. This half-star brainwave power feels, something is wrong. So familiar, this. Several Orion Arm semi-stars on the periphery of the battlefield were completely shocked when they felt the rising brainwave power in the precarious battleship. Then they suddenly thought that this half-star brainwave power seemed to be quite familiar. Then, they all thought of a name in their minds. Lord Jia Yan's clone. As if responding to these people's thoughts, the owner of half-star brainwave power flew out of the battleship in an instant. Amid the buzzing sound, the creature's appearance completely appeared in everyone's eyes. It looked like a wild boar, with bristles on its back and protruding tusks, but it didn't have a ferocious expression, instead it looked very plain. Such a creature is just like the flowers and plants on the roadside. Among all the half-star creatures, the feeling is not outstanding at all, and the brainwave power is not the same at all, let alone powerful. Oh! There is actually a half-star class in this battleship. You Orion Arm warriors are indeed lagging behind, and you can be so lazy. The enemy's star-level existence was immediately recognized. The half-star level creature that appeared was actually a half-star level Orion Arm that was not very powerful. It even didn't appear in the battleship for a long time. It seemed a bit disgraceful that it only appeared at this critical moment. Although the two sides are in a hostile relationship, neither side will look good when facing such a shameless strong man. Oh, am I being lazy? Sir, what you said is a bit hurtful, but I am indeed being lazy. Jia Yan smiled. Because his clone is affected by his strength, even though it looks a little weird, it still feels like a benevolent being. Okay, I won't say any more to you. You are a half-star, and you are not qualified to talk to a star like me, even if I am only the weakest being in a star. That star level is a bachelor, and he directly said that he is the weakest star level, but even so, he also expressed that even if he is the weakest star level, he is still a star level, and Jia Yan half-stars like clones are fundamentally different. Well, I won't talk to you anymore, just die. Jia Yan's clone also nodded, and then he didn't use the fighting power of his main body because he was lazy. Terrifying meteorites that appeared in space one after another exploded and rushed in front of this star-level existence. What? This stellar star's eyes were about to pop out. At this moment, although he couldn't hide away, a shocking thought suddenly came out of his mind. He knew who the other party was. Unexpectedly, this Orion Arm semi-star level existence that he despises is Jia Yan, a galaxy level clone. Moreover, he already knew the strength of this clone. After all, on this battlefield, he had already regarded Jia Yan's clone as a galaxy level existence. But he never thought that he, a small star level creature, would one day encounter a galaxy level clone. I know I was wrong, big. Before he could finish his words, this star-level creature was instantly swallowed by the force of the meteorite explosion. How? I knew he was the ancestor's clone, ha ha ha, I knew it. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1836. In the battleship that Jia Yan just flew out of, the captain almost roared out. He was so surprised. Although he had thought before that this might be the clone of the ancestor, now he saw that it was indeed the case. Of course he was happy. Moreover, Master Jia Yan was still in front of him, killing a strong star-level man. You must know that this clone flew out of his own battleship. This is enough to boast to his descendants for the rest of his life. Haha, just keep fighting and don't worry about me. When Jia Yan's clone saw the fighting around him, he began to calm down again, so he flew into the distant starry sky and no longer sat on the battleship. Because his identity has been exposed, it is best not to affect their combat effectiveness. After all, him being on the battleship will also have a bad impact on other people's mentality. If they have the illusion that their battleship can directly rush in, it would be difficult to deal with the enemy's fleet. Okay, now it's the turn of the other clones. Jia Yan has been using his clones to help with the battle. After all, now that he has the capital to face the opponent directly, he will definitely not be as timid as before. What's more, if it's just a clone, then he doesn't have to worry that his real body will be beaten to death by a group of galaxy-level and a galaxy mid-level powerhouse. That's right, even now he knows that even with the help of clones, he is still likely to die if he is besieged by so many galaxy-level enemies. Especially the mid-level galaxy creature, he has not moved out in the dark until now. Even though Jia Yan showed such terrifying strength, he still didn't feel any hurry. This means that the other party is not worried about Jia Yan, is still not that worried about the strength of his clone that he is showing now. But he will definitely know that Jia Yan's real body is much stronger than his clone, which makes him a little timid, so he doesn't go directly to fight now. The competition now is the ability to drag, and both sides are watching to see whose ace is the first to take action. Jia Yan's trump card is to use his true form, while the enemy's trump card is to see when their galaxy intermediate will be dispatched. Whoever comes out first will be taken advantage of by the other party, which is not a good thing for everyone. But time is on my side, because I have so many clones, not to mention each one of them has the strength to deal with the galaxy class. Even if I can deal with most galaxy class, I guess there won't be much advantage, but an advantage is an advantage. Not to mention that if one or two of my clones die, it won't affect anything. Jia Yan is not worried about the death or injury of the clone at all. This is his biggest reliance. Even if he, as other Galaxy-class people expected, the death of the clone will have a certain backlash effect on the real body, it is not as serious as the other party thought. It is estimated that the enemy has also vaguely noticed that Jia Yan does not seem to be afraid of the death of his clone, so even though the war has started to get heated again, the enemy has slowly stopped even appearing at the Galaxy level. The opponent should be ready to launch a full-scale war against Jia Yan at some point, which is the final battle. At that time, all the Galaxy-level enemies will appear to deal with Jia Yan. But Jia Yan couldn't do anything about it. The enemy couldn't really be that stupid, and they would be caught one by his own clones and die together. So Jia Yan is also waiting. If he wants to win beautifully and show it to the Zerg Queen, he must not be cowardly, but must win these battles head-on. This clone gradually entered the subspace, and then passed through the pipeline and entered other battleships, serving as a strong man like a foreign aide. In the Orion Arm fleet, it became popular to treat semi-star level creatures with respect, especially those with unknown origins. Everyone was looked at by others, which seemed strange, as if everyone was a giant mosquito. It's like the ancestors' clone. This made for a period of time, the semi-star powerhouses in Orion's arms began to feel that they were respected more than the star-level ones. Even some semi-star level creatures were joking that if this continued, they would, even if there is a chance to be promoted to the stellar level, I probably have to think about it. Of course, that was just a joke. In fact, the number of half-stars in Orion's arms was not too many. After Jia Yan used his clones to occupy hundreds of positions, there were less than a few hundred left. This makes it too easy to judge Jia Yan's clone in many ordinary battleships. After all, for ordinary half-stars, as long as you search online, there will be clues about the past, that is, past deeds, but Jia Yan's half-star clones, but there was nothing there. A discerning person would know that it was Jia Yan's clone. Of course, it doesn't matter even if you know, there can't be enemy spies everywhere, right? What's more, even if one knew where Jia Yan's two clones were, there would be no way to deal with them, and it would have little impact on the overall situation. Sir, the enemy has been shrinking back, and then slowly gathered at several points around the periphery of our Orion arm. I suspect that the opponent probably wants to fight a big battle with our Orion arm there, or even it could be the final showdown. One day, Jia Yan received information from Luo Longxi. In the subspace, he has been filled with all this information and all kinds of news, and his recent cultivation has actually come to a standstill. Of course, winning this war is not just as simple as rescuing the Orion arm. Jia Yan will be able to use the power of victory to go to these failed star fields and demand compensation for a large amount of resources. By then, Jia Yan's it is estimated that all the losses incurred in cultivation can be recovered tenfold or even 100-fold. More likely than not. Otherwise he wouldn't be so enthusiastic. From ancient times to the present, from primitive life to interstellar creatures, war has been the most rewarding thing, so no matter whether they are advanced in civilization or backward, they will not be able to escape this in the end. I understand, you slowly collect the intelligence there, and then when I take action, I will take action. Jia Yan looked at the information and felt a little depressed. Because the enemies are surrounding the Orion arm, even if they retreat, they will not all retreat together. Instead, they will become a few small dots outside the Orion arm. Now these small dots are Lalong. They suspected that the enemy was preparing to start a decisive battle with the Orion arm. But there are several so-called decisive battle places. It is estimated that the enemy has also noticed that even if Jia Yan has the strength, he is not very versatile. No, even if we have a small number of zinc levels here, even if we use clones to pile them up, we have to pile them up until there are a lot of clones in every aspect to help fight. Jia Yan made a decision to make every clone reach its strongest state. Of course, because after being dispersed, the condensed strength of the clones will be weaker. The enemy now has several choices. Use the elimination method to see which one is the most correct. First of all, they shouldn't be like before, with several galaxies in a group, spread out in the starry sky to deal with my clones. Having tried something once before, the enemy will probably not be so bored. It will hurt his face to keep coming for clones to fight. Secondly, they probably won't choose to put pressure on our Orion arm from all directions this time. This is also easy to understand. The combat effectiveness of both sides has now begun to reverse. If they are extremely arrogant and attack the Orion arm from several places together, they are asking for trouble. So after thinking for a while, Jia Yan analyzed that the enemy would make the right decision. Then this time, they should gather all the Galaxy-class weapons to launch the largest attack on me at these battle locations. Jia Yan seemed to be guessing where the enemy would appear, and the enemy would also guess which battle location Jia Yan would arrive in person. On several main battlefields, apart from the fact that the ordinary fleets are very strong, the biggest difference is whether the Galaxy class is there. If Jia Yan guesses correctly, then he will have a final decisive battle with one of the main battlefields, the Galaxy-level gathering place. If you guess wrong, you will face Jia Yan easily helping the fleet to destroy a large enemy fleet, but the enemy's dozen or so Galaxy-level powerhouses will also destroy a certain aspect of the Orion arm fleet, just like it's a replacement injury. I don't want to end up exchanging injuries for injuries. After all, the lives of the soldiers in our Orion arm fleet are precious, and they are still strong men who have participated in this war. In the future, there may be some semi-permanent people among them. There are star-level and even stellar-level existences. If one is lucky, even the seeded-level galaxy level may appear. Of course, this possibility is estimated to be too small. In short, I cannot let the powerful system that just appeared in the Orion arm suffer like this. Big blow, so what should I do? What Jia Yan wants most is to run into the enemy's Galaxy class. If they run into each other, it will probably be a hard fight. In fact, he knows his strength. Even if he still doesn't understand how strong the intermediate galaxy is, even if the enemy has 10 helpers, Jia Yan still has his own subspace talent. If he can't beat him, he will run away. Well, it was his common tactic, and the kite-flying tactic was also very easy to use. When the time came to fight, he always felt that he would not lose. So it's best to meet head-on. The question is how to encounter it. Jia Yan, are you confused about where the enemy's main force is? Yes. Far far away in the starry sky, on a deserted planet, a castle actually appeared, and at first glance, there were many angry creatures in the castle. But in fact, neither these ordinary creatures nor the two super strong men sitting in the castle are normal beings. Not to mention that servant-like creatures are created, even the two super strong men themselves are just a clone. At this time, the Zerg Queen, the clone who looked like an Earth-level beauty, showed the dignity of Jia Yan's clone. Jia Yan didn't deny the question she asked, and nodded directly. He was actually having a headache trying to figure out where the other party's gathering point was. Actually, you don't have to worry about this problem, because the enemy will definitely tell you. After all, although you are worried about your fleet, the enemy definitely does not want to cause more losses to his fleet. The Zerg Queen pointed out something that made Jia Long suddenly enlightened. He immediately understood that the Zerg Queen was right, because since the enemy had set up such a trap, they must be sure of Zhang Jia Yan's true identity, so they were unwilling to show up and killed a group of them on their own. Jia Yan himself guessed wrongly about the weak Orion arm fleet and went to other points to kill an important fleet and strong ones of theirs. At least in terms of training costs, the cost of training the weak fleets in Orion's arms is much smaller. They can fight against the coalition fleets. One is that they are large in number, and the other is that they have the unique skill of joining forces. Putting aside these 2 points, their strength is too weak, and the cost of training is simply not as good as those of their own elites. Thank you, Your Majesty the Queen. It seems that as long as I wait slowly, they will reveal their location to me. Jia Yan quickly thanked the Zerg Queen. From this day on, Jia Yan is no longer anxious about these issues. After the enemy has determined its location, he will leak their location to Jia Yan. Of course, he will not tell it blatantly, but will use intelligence leaks or the like. Wei revealed. Sure enough, after Jia Yan waited for another half-month, the general battle situation of the two sides was fully in place. It would not take long for them to advance and fight at several points at the same time. The information is coming. Sir, you are right. The other party actually showed up with information, saying that they were prisoners on a certain fleet, and that the Galaxy class was at the fleet gathering point in the northwest corner. Lawrence came with information again. Haha, it's really here. After Jia Yan received this information, he looked strange for a while. After seemingly thinking for a long time, he drew a huge circle on the map in the direction of the northwest corner of Shiyuan. Then, the giant Mosquito's true form moved like that, heading towards the northwest corner of Orion's arm from a mysterious space that had never moved much before. After waiting for so long, the real body will be able to officially start the war. Haha, you must be waiting impatiently, these invaders. Jia Yan smiled. The giant Mosquito's true form was like a black terrifying monster in subspace, traveling extremely fast. At the same time, the enemy also immediately started making different adjustments. There is only a short time left before a full-scale war begins. Now both sides have no time to make adjustments. This is also the reason why we have only revealed our true position until now. Both sides have no way to make small moves, so they can only use your own fighting power to engage in a head-on confrontation. Your Majesty is right, but we have more than a dozen Galaxy Level 1s here, and he is just one. Haha, victory must belong to us. Why are you happy? Have you forgotten that he still has so many clones? Although these clones have been scattered by us because of this matter, the result is that if we lose here, all fleets and armies will be destroyed. His clones are wreaking havoc, which is a very heavy loss. Even if you and I are not dead by then, we will definitely have no shame in returning to the Star Territory. What does it mean if we lose? We have so many galaxy-level people and adults are here, how can we still lose? You are overthinking it. By ping check the latest chapter of Rebirth of the Star Sky Giant Mosquito Claw Machine bookstore for free for the first time. Read. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1837. For the people in the coalition, especially the galaxy-level creatures, this attack on the Orion Arm starfield was far more shocking than happy from beginning to end. When they first learned that Jia Yan, the evolutionary beast, was actually a superclass tonic that could allow them to advance to the galaxy level, they were pleasantly surprised, even because they were the first ones to find this information, and I am extremely happy and always feel that the opportunity to improve myself is right in front of me. It is a pity that after great joy, there is often great sadness. It is like a person who cannot be too sad and happy, because you have happy things, but there will definitely be sad times, and when you are happy, you will be too happy. If you encounter something sad down the road, you may not be able to bear such sudden changes, which may lead to psychological problems. This is what happened to these galaxy-class people. They were so happy at the beginning, thinking that as long as they reached the Orion Arm, they could easily find the evolved beast, and then they would join forces to kill it or capture it alive to gain the strength they dreamed of. Progress. But the reality was the most shocking. When these strong men arrived at the Orion Arm, they were shocked by the initial tenacious resistance of the Orion Arm. Next, they originally thought that no matter how stubborn they were, they would still be easily defeated if they had no strength. Then the battle that forced Jia Yan out actually turned into creatures in Orion's arms. Each one learned what yin and yang were. With the help of this thing, their fleet and subordinates actually tied with the weak Orion Arm. This is difficult for them to accept, but because of this, they are a little happy, because the Orion arm cannot be blocked at all. Maybe Jia Yan will escape to other places because of disappointment, which for them on the contrary, it is the most troublesome thing. So they acquiesce to the occurrence of that situation, but at a certain stage, after even their stronger subordinates, that is, some stellar level or even intermediate level and high level stellar creatures, began to die, they can't sit still anymore. Ever since, there was a scene of the first galaxy level taking action himself. But that attack made them all seem to have seen something extraordinary. That was the first galaxy class, who was actually scared away alive. As for the second one, it was even more miserable. He and Jia Yan fought together, and both of them were injured and died together. What happened next made these galaxy-level powerhouses feel that Orion Arm or Jia Yan was not an easy place to fight or bully at all. In several battles, without Jia Yan's real body appearing, 3 of their galaxy-level warriors died instantly. In the subsequent encounter, several galaxy-level warriors were scared away by a group of Jia Yan's clones. These complete blows to the head seemed to have devastated their morale for a while. However, they still have reasons to stay on the periphery of the Orion Arm, and they also have the real backbone who believes that Jia Yan will fail. That was the middle-level warrior from the galaxy, and he was also the strongest warrior in their coalition this time. The presence of this being is their last hope and their final shot. Now, these galaxy-level people can only hope that in the final battle they have planned, this mid-level galaxy-level senior can help them reverse their defeat and achieve their original goal in one fell swoop. At this point, there are many people who want to leave, but there are also many who cannot. If you don't want to leave, or if you leave, you will be attacked by the middle-level strongmen and other galaxy-level people who are unwilling to leave. By then, you will be dead, so you might as well stay here and fight Jia Yan. Don't worry, I will definitely take action in this war personally. Although Jia Yan is strong, he is still a junior star of the galaxy. If you are worried, you can help me from the side, so that everything will be safe. The mid-level galaxy creature spoke calmly to the dozen or so galaxy-level people in the coalition who were waiting for him to take action. Of course we can rest assured that Your Excellency is willing to take action, but Jia Yan does have some skills. If he escapes, all previous efforts will be wasted, so we will definitely assist Your Excellency when the time comes. It was obvious that this mid-level being from the galaxy was a little unsure whether he could defeat Jia Yan, but until now, they could only follow what the other party wanted. Time passed little by little. The armies of both sides began to disperse. The Orion Arm, like the other party, divided into several groups and pursued the enemy in the direction of escape. Gradually, everyone was almost catching up to their base camp. In every base camp, there are an unknown number of battleships and an unknown number of weapons waiting for the arrival of the Orion Arm army. On the Orion Arm side, there are also many warships and weapons, and there are even countless new weapons built in the northern star region thousands of kilometers away. These weapons are of course much better than those of the Orion Arm. Even compared with the opponent's weapons, they do not suffer any loss. Some of them are even unique and better than the opponent's weapons. This gave the Orion Arm on the battleship a head start and advantage because its numbers far outnumbered the enemy. Pushing all the way, chasing and killing all the way. Puff! A coalition warship suddenly disintegrated itself while being hunted. Because there was a strong man next to a different battleship, and he directly broke open the battleship. Even the commander inside who controlled the battleship was killed with one blow. Haha, it's so cool to chase down enemy ships behind the adults. We also have such strong men in the Orion Arm. The coalition forces underestimate our strong men in the Orion Arm. That is, the analysis of the coalition forces and the outside world has been saying that there are very few strong Orion Arms among us. If it were not for the unique combination of yin and yang dao, we would definitely not be able to survive for long. This is simply unreasonable. In the starry sky, the strong man who destroyed the battleship with one blow was a creature that had reached the lower level of the venerable. His strength was at the semi-star level, and he was still very young. He looks like an earthling who is not over 20 years old. This strong man had a plain face, and even when he was praised by his subordinates, he did not show the slightest hint of happiness. Because he had heard countless similar flatteries in his life. In fact, this strong man has only one goal in his heart that he wants to surpass, but this goal is completely impossible to catch up with. Forget it, don't think too much. My strength is just that of a venerable. If I encounter a half-star strong man, I will run away. This creature behaved very well to his subordinates, but when he talked about strong men, a gleam of light suddenly flashed in his eyes, indicating that he was not as calm as everyone thought. He is also a strong man, and he also wants to dominate the world. It's a pity that his birth was doomed. No matter how talented he was, as long as he couldn't do that, he would never be recognized. That's right, this lower-level creature who looks like an earthling is none other than Jiarong, who just had a wedding on Earth. Just after his wedding, Jiarong received the information that the battle had begun, and regardless of his family's pleas to stay or his newlywed wife's pleading, he came to the front line of the battlefield to provide support. In fact, as a member of the Jia family, no one can ask him to do anything. Even Jia Yan and Jiarong have the courage to say no. But precisely because he was from the Jia family, and even more so his son, he didn't feel like he could do nothing, because that was not his character. Of course, the reason why he dared to lead his own small fleet on the battlefield was because he knew that there was that person on his body, or behind him. He still remembered that Jia Yan had left several rays of energy on him, and it was unknown whether he had applied it to him again recently. Therefore, he is so courageous that he dares to take combat missions that others dare not take. Even if he knows that there are semi-constant breath level experts or even stellar level experts in the opponent's fleet, he dares to take them. The stellar being who protected Jiarong had already left long ago due to the needs of the battle. Lord Jiarong, there is an enemy situation ahead. Analyze it. The enemy's warships are not too big, so there is a high chance that there are no venerable level enemies. This is because generally a strong man above the half-star level needs a warship several hundred meters long to accommodate it. However, there is also a certain chance that the enemy has a smaller body size, just like you. Don't worry so much, just go up and have a look. If it is a small fleet and there are no strong ones, we will eat it directly. It is also an extra military achievement. If it is a very strong fleet, don't worry. Our battleships, it is already the latest engine in the Northern Star territory, so it is still possible to escape. Yes. When Jiarong nonchalantly gave the order to pursue a small fleet ahead, he returned to his room. The chase in the Interstellar is not that fun at all. It looks like the chase is very fast, but in fact if everyone's battleships have similar performance, it will be a longer process. In this process, Jiarong can completely return to his own. In the room, slowly look at the photos of Jia's family, the photos of his newlywed wife, etc. A strong person also needs a psychological adjustment process, although Jia Yan doesn't seem to have many such times. Jiarong looked at the beautiful girl in the photo, and then thought about how long he had been married to her, and he felt very uncomfortable that he had left this beautiful wife alone in an empty room. Just looking at other photos, such as a family photo, he couldn't help but smile knowingly. Even though he still has some feelings for Jia Yan, Jiarong has already looked away from Jia Yan. What's more, this time he seems to have seen that the relationship between his mother Satsuma and Jia Yan is getting better and better. After he found his current wife, the two of them came together. If he had known that he would find a wife, his parents would have gotten together. Jiarong wished he could have found a wife earlier. Of course, the mood at this time is different from the previous mood, and the conditions are also different, so Jiarong knows that the reason why Jiayan and Satsuma Kong can come together now is also caused by various factors and circumstances. In short, now that his parents are well and he has found his wife, he feels that he has nothing to regret in life. It's a pity that I just can't catch up with Jiayan. I don't know if I can reach the stellar level in my life. If I can reach the stellar level, it will be a worthwhile trip. Jiarong knows that although Jiayan, who has reached the galaxy level, is his father, first of all, he is not much older than Jiarong. Secondly, the lifespan of the galaxy level is extremely long. As long as Jiayan does not commit suicide, he will be very young. Maybe Jiarong has died of old age, and Jiayan is still on the rise, so he doesn't expect to be able to surpass Jiayan, nor does he expect to see Jiayan's last life. He only expects to be able to live in the life of Jiayan, the cheap dad. Here, leaving a thicker stroke, you can also let him praise that his son is also talented. So he works hard. Boom. While Jiarong was still immersed in his past, suddenly, the battleship moved loudly. What's going on? Is the enemy attacking? Jiarong's face darkened, and he quickly released his brainwave power. Although the brainwave power that reaches the venerable level is not as powerful as the galaxy level or the star level, it can shake the world, but it is still at a certain level, especially Jiarong's brainwave power. It has reached the level of control, and its detection of the outside world is not only subtle, but it is definitely very clear. It's not a battleship coming, but a strong man. Jiarong was suddenly startled. He used his brainwave power to see the source of the explosive power, and also saw what creature caused the explosive power. It was a small, rabbit-like creature. But this creature exudes a strong sense of semi-star level strength. In other words, this creature is actually a semi-stellar creature. It is obviously not much bigger than the people on Earth. Half-star level? Could it be that it appeared in the fleet we were chasing? Jiarong's heart skipped a beat and he felt a little responsible for his order. Because semi-star level creatures are almost invincible to their fleet, even Jiarong himself has no confidence in dealing with them. No, since it is my order, then I have to take responsibility myself. Besides, it is not certain whether my strength can deal with an ordinary half-star level. After all, I think I have a certain ability, genius and strength. Jiarong knew that his strength was certainly weaker than Jiayan's, but he also believed that he had talent. If I could defeat a half-star creature with the power of a late-level venerable, wouldn't even that cheap dad be proud of me? After thinking this way, Jiarong's brainwave power was instantly released. Bang! Not long after, an earth-shaking explosion of brainwave power suddenly appeared in the starry sky. Under the two roaring explosions, a moment of roaring sound and energy continued to reverberate in the space. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1838. A small warship that was relatively close to the sound of the explosion was swaying, feeling shaken by the power of these two energy explosions. But that's it, even if both sides have a certain level of semi-star strength, it is absolutely unrealistic to expect them to shake the world like a star or galaxy. A half-star, for today's Jiarong, is an existence that is eager to try and challenge. The enemy seemed to sense Jiarong's strength and smiled inexplicably. Jiarong looked calm, stabilized his brainwave power, and then slowly flew out of the battleship regardless of the objections of his subordinates. Oh! A powerful person at the top of the venerable level is quite brave and dares to appear in my eyes. When the half-star saw Jiarong, his unexplained smile got even bigger. But the way he spoke made Jiarong very annoyed. Your Excellency, you are a semi-star powerhouse. I respect your strength, but if you want to insult me, I will not forgive you. What kind of non-forgiveness method? Do you think you can still escape? The other party views himself as if he were an ordinary supreme being. Although Jiurong knows that his strength is indeed only that of a supreme being, to him, this insult is very serious. As a member of the Geo family, he was rarely insulted. On the rare occasions when he was insulted, he resisted him with all his strength. The most famous one was when he ran away from home and met someone in a certain star field. The strongest person in this star field was a star-level existence, but that existence was killed instantly by the energy of Jia Yan, who was secretly protecting Jiurong. It is also because of these protections that Jiurong has never been afraid of the strong. Of course he would not be afraid of the half-star existence in front of him. Sir, some people are not as simple as they appear. If you want to die, I can help you, but I will not use special power. I will use the power of my body to kill you. Jiurong sneered. Without further ado, the two sides immediately started fighting. Boom boom boom. In the interstellar world, Jiurong, who had reached the pinnacle of the venerable level, relied on the yin and yang Tao he had learned long ago, and he actually ended up in a draw with his opponent for a while. The enemy didn't seem to be having too much difficulty. In short, the two sides fought for a while. Even if it was not as earth-shattering as the galaxy level or the stellar level, it was still very exciting. No one knows who they will win and who will lose. But there is no need to win or lose. Because no matter what, the combat power of a half-star level should not have much influence on the entire battle situation. But Jiurong's unique identity is the top priority. Just around the battlefield, some vague and huge shadows appeared at some unknown time. Oh, this Jiurong is quite powerful. He is able to tie with a half-star, which is a bit like his father's style. What is the father's style? He can only rely on his own blood. There is still a certain gap between Jia Yan's strength back then. Yes, it's not about the difference in hard power. After all, Jia Yan didn't cultivate his yin and yang dao back then. In terms of physical strength alone, Jiurong, who uses yin and yang dao, is not much worse than his father. What he lacks is his practical fighting ability and adaptable fighting style. Around the battlefield, the figures that no one noticed seemed to be watching children playing house and pointing at Jiurong's battle. But unfortunately, Jiurong and the Orion Arm battleship behind him did not notice their appearance at all and ignored them. Yes, these figures who appeared are all strong, and extremely strong. They watched Jiurong's battle with the half-star strong man. Although they were amazed by the performance of the strong man's son, that was all. Real geniuses and strong men will not perform like Jiurong. Just like Jia Yan's performance back then, he was fighting across levels, but in comparison, it was definitely much more amazing than Jiurong's fighting, and even while he was fighting, he would still worry about these approaching shadows, but Jiurong didn't think much about it except mechanically using yin and yang dao techniques. And in fact, he gradually became somewhat at a disadvantage. I don't believe it, I can't fight beyond the level. Jiurong's originally confident performance on the battlefield turned into deep despair. Through the feeling of the other party fighting with him, he completely believed that he was actually unable to fight beyond the level, and the way he was so busy was just playing tricks on him. So, is it so difficult to fight across levels? What kind of mentality did Jia Yan have when he had no yin and yang dao and no other means of support, yet he still dared to fight against a master of a higher level than himself? There are too many differences. Jiurong finally sighed bitterly in his heart. Okay, Your Excellency Jiurong, the fun is over. The half-star existence smiled and was about to take action. But at the same moment, Jiurong's body suddenly exploded with a shocking energy. Behind this shocking power, a monster that looked like a giant mosquito appeared faintly. This is the last and most terrifying protective power in Jiurong's body, the power from Jia Yan. Coming. When the half-star powerhouse felt a little shocked by the power that exploded in Jiurong's body, and quickly retreated, there was a faint presence in the void that had been observing the fight like a child's slapstick. They immediately tore apart their concealment. That power did not have the ability to talk, but at the first moment, he did not fight against the half-star, but suddenly felt the terrifying power around him. Then, a trace of anger appeared on the giant mosquito's humanized face. He knew everything in an instant. This is all a layout to lure his son to appear. If Jia Rong is caught by the opponent, then Jia Yan will become passive. What's more, this is Jia Rong, whose father-son relationship has just eased. In the past, he might not have cared too much about Jia Rong, but after all, the relationship between the two parties has improved now, and Jia Yan agrees that he is his son, so he couldn't give up Jia Rong. Jia Rong had just recovered from the anger of losing the battle. He knew that he had the ultimate defense, which was this power. But just when I came back to my senses, I felt that the escaped half-star was not dead. You know, even the strong star was restrained by Jia Yan's power in one breath. This mere half-star, he was supposed to be able to capture him easily, so why could he still escape? The next moment, he finally knew why. Because what Jia Yan energy is looking at is not the half-star level, but other aspects. Looking in the direction he was looking at, Jia Rong's eyes widened for a moment. He finally knew what the strange aspect he had been feeling in this battle was. That is, outside the battlefield, there is a group of super terrifying strong men who have been watching him. The purpose is to wait for Jia Yan's power to appear. Ha, is this just energy? It's quite interesting. Let us, the Galaxy class, work together to deal with it. It's time for you to be proud, Jia Yan. An extremely terrifying being stepped out from the starry sky. It turned out to be a monster that was dozens of kilometers in size, much larger than Jia Rong and several other warships put together. In addition, two equally terrifying giant monsters appeared. When these monsters appeared on the scene, it was like several big planets suddenly arrived, which was extremely scary. Jia Rong smiled bitterly. He knew that he was just lured here, just a simple chess piece. Maybe the half-star level he just fought with was not real at all. In other words, is his strength still not enough to deal with a half-star? It's just a way to lure the energy in his body. Okay, what's the use of telling him more? It's just a burst of energy, just wipe it out casually, then capture his son and lure him forward in his true form, or it would be good to use the son as a bargaining chip in the war. Several galaxy-level beings seemed to have no regard for Jia Yan's energy body. In an instant, there was a crazy surge of power in this direction. The giant mosquito shadow in front of Jia Rong fought hard and resisted these forces with all his strength. It's a pity that these powers come from the galaxy level, and they come together in several ways. The energy in Jia Rong's body can only deal with the average star level. Against the galaxy level, it is simply a drop in the bucket and a little resistance. No one can do it. Or it should be said that this group of galaxy-level people set out just for Jia Yan's energy and came here in person. It can also be said to be a tribute to Jia Yan. Unfortunately, this tribute is a despicable act and not worth boasting about. But for a moment, Jia Rong only felt that the power to protect him in front of him, which he regarded as the strongest protector and an important means for him to dare to run rampant in the war zone, suddenly turned into ashes like a bubble. Killed instantly. Humph, it's really nothing special. That's right. It's just a force of Jia Yan's and it's not worth bragging about. Several of us galaxy level appeared together. If even one of his energy cannot kill him, it can only be said that he has reached the level of Domain Lord or even higher. How can we dare to deal with him? That's right. Okay, the farce is over. Now take his son away, so that we will have a big threat in our hands. The three galaxy-level powerhouses sneered again and again, and suddenly used their brainwave power one by one, preparing to control Jia Rong, who in their eyes was not much bigger than an ant, and take him to their custody. I. Looking at the terrifying giant beast standing in front of him that was like 3 planets, Jia Rong felt that he was so small at this moment. Facing such a monster and such a strong man, he couldn't even scream. Come. He even thought that he was very confident, but when he faced the Galaxy class, he was completely seen through, and he was just a coward. At this moment, he felt that he was not living up to expectations. As that existence, he could not even speak. At the same time, he felt aggrieved because he was the son of that existence and had to endure the pressure of such a terrifying and powerful person. But just when Jiarong's thoughts were racing, it was extremely exciting. An unexpected surprise happened again. Your Excellencies, as Galaxy-level people, personally deal with a venerable-level person. It would be a bit shameless. A crisp male voice sounded, and then, from where the voice came from, the flagship that Jiarong had just been on, suddenly there was a shadow of an Earthling who was very similar to Jiarong, shooting out quickly. This Earthling shadow has a head of black hair. Although his appearance is not outstanding, because of his heroic temperament and extremely chic style, he seems to have endless masculinity at this time. It can be said that he is handsome with temperament. But when Jiarong, who was at the forefront of the storm, looked at this appearance, he was stunned. Because the character who appeared this time was none other than the cheap father he had been thinking about just now, Jia Yan. No, it should be said to be the Earthling Jia Yan's clone of the giant mosquito Jia Yan. Well, this is a mouthful. In fact, Jiarong regards him like this as his real father. In other words, like the giant mosquito, everyone who looks for the book regards him as Jia Yan's true father. One of the images. In short, something unexpected happened for the three major galaxy classes. A clone of Jia Yan appeared on the battlefield. His strength only reached half-star level, which was not much stronger than the total energy of the half-star level strongman who had fought with Jiarong before. But for the three major galaxy classes, the pressure of this person's appearance instantly changed from that of a half-star class. Because he is the clone of the real Master Jia Yan. There have been several precedents for these clones to die together with their galactic counterparts. Jia Yan. You are actually in this battleship too. Even we have hidden it. It seems that your clone was not inside the battleship before, but was sitting in the sub-row room, right? Even we can hide it, which is a clever subspace talent. The expressions on the faces of the three major galaxy classes suddenly became ugly. What they said was quite casual, but deep down they all felt a little wary. Because this Jia Yan's clone can cause the death of one of them. Even if Jia Yan has any unique means, it may cause two galaxy-level casualties at the same time, which would be dangerous. Even though they knew that facing the three major galactic levels, one Jia Yan clone would never be able to make a big splash, and the most likely possibility would still be that they would be killed by the three of them in one fell swoop. But the galaxy class are creatures that care about their own lives. Even if the chance of injury or death is low, they don't want to bear the consequences. Jia Yan, are you going to use a clone like yourself to protect your son? Are you thinking that our galaxy-level comrades are too weak? A galaxy-level being, after being silent for a while, did not explain why they wanted to kidnap Jiarong. Instead, he sneered and spoke to disturb Jia Yan's mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1839. The other major galaxy levels were carefully waiting for the opportunity for Jia Yan to lose his mind. They were galaxy level. To deal with a star and a half-star, as long as they caught the other party's negligence for a moment, he might be unable to react. Kill the opponent. Of course, as a combat expert, how could Jia Yan make such a mistake? Finally, Jia Yan let out a long sigh and became more serious in his words. I can probably guess what you want, but do you think it's really that easy for you to do it? Besides, Isn't there a middle-level galaxy senior behind you? Why do you think that this if you are at the middle level of galaxy, you won't burn bridges across rivers? Jia Yan's words can be regarded as every word, and they are deeply rooted in people's hearts. But there was no one who could be easily persuaded by him at the galaxy level in front of him. They must have thought about similar concerns, but just because they thought about staying here, they judged that they should stay. Jia Yan, you don't need to say more. The decision we have made will not change. If you know the truth, you should blow up your clone now. Otherwise, your son will be hurt when we fight. But things that are not allowed. The three people on the other side sneered for a while. Well, Jia Yan knew that it was absolutely impossible for these galaxy-level people to make decisions. After all, the strong were the strong, and it would be difficult for others to change the decisions they made. Guys, since I've guessed that you might attack, how could I not be prepared? It's okay for me to blow up such a clone, but what about the rest? Can you deal with it? Jia Yan, the human clone, suddenly smiled. Yes, can you deal with the remaining clones? When the words fell, several galaxy-level powerhouses, as well as Jiarong and other people in the Orion arm and fleet all felt a little unbelievable at this statement. Another voice sounded. The owner of this voice has a timbre a bit like Jia Yan's, and his strength is also semi-star level. As a result, under the complete astonishment of all the creatures, the subspace was torn open again, and a creature about several hundred meters tall appeared. And behind this creature, there was a stream of half-stars, tearing apart the subspace from the subspace and stepping out of it. There are a total of 11.5 star-level creatures, all eyeing the three galaxy-level powerhouses. Although they are only a few hundred meters in size, the total size of the 10 of them may not be as large as half a star-level powerhouse. It should even be said that even their thighs are larger than these 10.5 star-level clones. Huge. But the sudden appearance of these 10.5 star-level clones caused great psychological pressure on the three galaxy-level beings in front of them. There is no other reason. These three galaxy-level powerhouses know that the half-star level creatures in front of them are not ordinary half-star level creatures at all. If they are ordinary half-star level creatures, they will not be afraid even if there are 10,000 of them. Can also kill them completely with just one brainwave power. But these 10.5 stars are Jia Yan's clones. This is the biggest problem. Jia Yan's clone has always been a huge source of danger to their lives. In this battle, it was because of the addition of Jia Yan's clone that even their galaxy-level creatures felt tremendous pressure. But now, Jia Yan's clones actually came up with a counter-plan in this battle and strategy, and drilled out 10 of them in one breath. If the combat effectiveness of these clones is based on the previous ones, it will be impossible for them to attack the three major galaxy-class clones. Living things are in a huge life and death crisis. There are so many clones here, Jia Yan, you can count us so accurately. That's an exaggeration. Did someone reveal our battle plan to Jia Yan? That's absolutely right. Otherwise, how would he know that we have a three-person team coming to rob his son? Several galaxy-level creatures were convinced that Jia Yan was able to send so many clones here. They firmly believed that he had some informant who told him, and this informant was definitely not below the galaxy level, because during this combat mission, they only talked to each other among the galaxy-level bosses. So, Jia Yan actually had a galaxy-level informant, which shocked them. In fact, when they said this, Jia Yan, the Earthling clone, smiled slightly. In fact, he had no informants at all. He just suddenly felt that the enemy would use some tricks at this important moment, so he figured out some of the joints. Anyway, it was temporary and his clone would not be able to use it. So many, even in the final decisive battle, because his real body will also participate, and he doesn't have the energy to control many clones, so it is better than nothing. He attaches part of his clones to Jiarong and other Geo family members, or sends one to on the important planet in the Orion Arm, prepare to see if there is an enemy sneak attack. As a result, he bumped into him by mistake, and he actually saw these 3 galaxy-level powerhouses coming here to threaten his son, trying to kidnap him and use him as a hostage. Fortunately, he took such precautions, otherwise he would have been doomed. We can't defeat 10 clones. Let's go. Each of these 3 galaxy levels looked at Jia Yan's 10 clones from afar with fear, and then one of them suddenly spoke and backed away. There was no clone guarding their backs, so they could retreat quickly. In fact, there is also a reason here, that is, Jia Yan does not want to fight them here. Jia Rong behind him is a big reason. After all, the galaxy level is still the galaxy level. He uses his own clones to fight against the opponent. Even if there are 10 or so, the basic strength gap is too big. It is still obvious, and under such circumstances, even if he can repeat his old tricks and use his clones to fight each other desperately to kill the enemy together, it is difficult to guarantee that Jia Rong will not be affected to death due to fluctuations in their battle. This was unacceptable to Jia Yan. After all, he finally resolved the misunderstanding with his son and the relationship became better. Dad, you. Jia Rong stood in the starry sky behind Jia Yan. He saw the enemy leaving, and then looked at Jia Yan, who was standing in front of him, looking like an earthling and half a head shorter than himself. He suddenly felt a difficult feeling come to mind. It was a sense of security, or some kind of sadness, he couldn't tell, but it was very strange anyway. This is the first time in Jia Rong's life that he feels the protection from his great father. Although there was energy to help before, the energy could not talk to each other and felt like a prop. But today is different. What comes is that he often regards it as, the earthling clone of his real father made him feel like there was real family affection. Needless to say, I want to chase them now to see if there is a chance to kill the 3 of them in one go, otherwise I will not give up. Jia Yan shook his head and didn't say anything about his son. After all, being calculated by the galaxy level, it was luck to survive. No one can say that the Zinged class is at fault for plotting against the Venerable class. After all, the levels are so different and the other party is so shameless that the assassination plot should be successful. Fortunately, Jia Yan's clone is here. Who? Within the interstellar space, except for 3 of Jia Yan's clones who remained to guard Jia Rong and the others, the remaining 15 all entered the subspace. In the extremely twisted subspace, they suddenly approached in one breath. Chase down the 3 galaxy-level powerhouses who are escaping. It's a pity that even if they enter the subspace, the brainwave power intensity of half-star level is still half-star level. Compared with the intensity of other people's galaxy level, it is completely incomparable, so in terms of flight speed, even if they use it, the way of traveling in the space is still being pulled further and further away by the 3 galaxy-level powerhouses in front. Oh! Forget it, let's not pursue him. If I continue to pursue him, I will have to chase him to the enemy's lair. Jia Yan's clone gave up the pursuit with great regret. In fact, if he uses the sneak attack and plotting well, he can plot against the enemy in turn, causing them to lose 3 galaxy-level enemies. This is an absolutely intolerable loss for the enemy. It's a pity that these 3 galactic levels are considered bachelors. Seeing that there is no chance, they directly use the escape method and let Jia Yan quietly send Jia Rong and others away. The chance of super kill was lost. Actually, the real body is not far from here. After all, this direction is the location we have decided for the final battle. This is a pretty good exercise for us. The tension on both sides will be raised. Jia Yan, who looked like an earthling, smiled silently and shook his head, then prepared to walk back. But just as the 15 clones were about to walk back, another shocking light suddenly shot out from the direction where the 3 previous galaxy-level creatures were escaping. The speed of this light was actually much more terrifying than the 3 galaxy levels that had escaped earlier. Even his body is far larger than those three galaxy-level powerhouses, reaching a terrifying size of more than 80 kilometers, which is several times the size of other elementary galaxy-level creatures. Such terrifying creatures that looked like planets. When they came to the star field, they saw Jia Yan's clones and his group of creatures flying together from a distance, preparing to enter the subspace. Jia Yan, you actually came to my door. Although it's just a clone, I'll charge you some interest now. Your real body should come over and die soon. This terrifying creature instantly used his brainwave power. This is not good. Jia Yan's earthly clone was almost out of his mind at this moment. The speed of the opponent's arrival, the feeling of his words, and his terrifying display of strength all told him one fact. That is, this coming existence is not an ordinary galaxy-level enemy. He is the nominally strongest person in this war, the middle-level creature from the galaxy. Boom! The huge light erupted from the enemy rushed in front of several clones as soon as Jia Yan and the others responded. Subspace meteorite, exploded for me. All clones actually have fast or slow reaction times, but through the link with the real body, everyone knows that there is an enemy behind them, even if they don't turn around that fast. So everyone worked together and used the most terrifying joint meteorite tactic. 15 clones, together using the meteorite tactic that can deal with galaxy-level powerhouses, at this moment, can be said to be the strongest fighting state that the clones can use. No matter how many clones join forces, Jia Yan's control is not enough, so 15 clones use their combat power together. This is already Jia Yan's ultimate control method, and it is also the most terrifying combat strength he can use his clones to achieve. The opponent's brainwave power has reached the middle level of the galaxy. Compared with the group of semi-star level clones in front of him, his strength is naturally earth-shaking. In many civilizations, a group of half-star level creatures treat mid-level galactic creatures as if they were gods. However, in this battlefield, a group of half-star level clones actually dare to attack a mid-level galactic level creature. Creatures to fight back. And the power of this counter-attack actually had some effect. Boom! Within the interstellar space, Jia Rong, who was still chatting with Jia Yan's other clones at his old place in the fleet. At this moment, he only saw the clone chatting with him, and his expressions and movements were completely frozen. For a moment. And further away, it was like a star exploding with extremely terrifying light within a second. What's this? Jia Rong didn't notice that all the clones of Jia Yan around him suddenly seemed to have lost control. This was because Jia Yan's real body was unable to control these ordinary clones at this moment. He only saw the giant explosion light and shadow effect over there, causing a large wave of energy that rushed towards the battleship here. Hurry up, get on the battleship. Get out of here. Suddenly, the half-star level Jia Yan clone next to him suddenly came to his senses, pushed Jia Rong away, and shot towards the main flagship he was previously riding on. Each of these battleships that received the transmission from Jia Yan's brainwave power retreated towards the rear at an extremely fast speed. But the three remaining clones standing here still seemed to be dead and stopped in place. Even the clone that just spoke and pushed Jia Rong was the same. Just like Jia Yan, in an instant, to these clones, it's like I don't want to care anymore. I really don't want to care anymore. Because the battle there actually reached the point where Jia Yan himself had a headache. It's quite an interesting way of fighting. Do you want to use these meteorites with positive and negative powers to blow up me? You're naive. The strong man in the middle level of galaxy immediately saw through the tricks of these meteorites when Jia Yan used meteorites to fight together, and at the same time he personally experienced the first wave of meteorite explosions. It's a pity that his strength is so strong that even the explosion of these meteorites, even the 15 clones working together, can't kill him, or even injure him. After all, intermediate galaxy is intermediate galaxy. Puff. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1840. Suddenly, the super-terrifying powerhouse, whose strength reached the middle level of galaxy, hit a Jia Yan clone in one blow. His brainwave power has always been able to hit these clones, but as if he was slowly understanding Jia Yan's meteorite fighting method, he did not kill the clones at all, but silently endured the bullets of the clones. But now, he seemed to understand a lot, so he gave up and continued to explore. With one blow, one of the clones died. It is indeed extremely strong. Jia Yan's clones sensed this mid-level galaxy one by one, and actually kept their hands on it until now. This made them all understand that this mid-level creature of the galaxy is worthy of being a strong mid-level galaxy, and is not an ordinary galaxy level at all. Existence that can be compared. And just when Jia Yan silently continued to rub shoulders with the Galaxy Intermediate, the Galaxy Intermediate creature did not care about Jia Rong, who was escaping at all, and was preparing to see what other methods Jia Yan's clone had here. In the starry sky, there was a gust of wind and clouds. In front of the starry sky where Jia Rong fled, a giant black mosquito stepped out silently. What is that? Be careful, it won't be another galaxy-level powerhouse, right? Damn it, how many powerhouses will be attracted to this small corner of the star field? On the battleship that Jia Rong was riding on, the Orion Arm warriors were all worried about the huge feat that appeared in front of them. But just when these soldiers were feeling extremely frightened by the sudden appearance of the terrifying feat, Jia Rong passed the bridge and saw the visible feat, and Jinner was instantly shocked. Overjoyed? Don't worry, everyone, this is the ancestor of the giant mosquito. He almost called him daddy, but changed his tune at the critical moment. Is this the ancestor? It's true. Look, behind his feet is the ancestor of the giant mosquito. Ha ha ha, the ancestor is here, we are saved. Senior ancestor came to the battlefield in person? My God, this is the first time that senior ancestor has come in person in this war. We are actually witnesses. It's great. My God, we can actually see our ancestors once in our lives. This is a supreme honor. Each of the group of soldiers felt extremely excited about the huge feat that appeared in front of them, and the behemoth that slowly stepped out of the subspace. However, after getting excited, they had some doubts, because behind the scenes, the creature fighting the ancestor was an existence that had reached the middle level of the galaxy. If the ancestor appeared and fought with him, who would win? Burden. Could it be that the final battle is about to begin here? A group of soldiers suddenly became a little worried about the war in front of them, because they never thought that this war would end here or something. But in fact, when that huge creature as majestic as heaven and earth, Jia Yan's true form, the giant mosquito, appeared in the starry sky. In the distant starry sky, the middle-level galaxy creature was entangled by several clones. It killed 8 in a row, but was still entangled to death. At this time, it also felt that an extremely terrifying strong man was coming in the distant starry sky. This kind of momentum. He was shocked. At the same time, a group of clones surrounding him all entered the subspace at once. They don't want to tangle with this strong man anymore, because if they continue to fight, it will only lead to death. They will not do it again by sending clones to the opponent as a training opponent. And the giant mosquitoes in the distance have already arrived. Whether they are fighting or making peace, it has nothing to do with these clones. At most, if a war really breaks out later, then they will just be there to help. Of course, this group of clones will occupy Jia Yan's energy, so during the battle, it can be done without using it. The mid-level galaxy creature was originally capable of hunting down him, but after sensing Jia Yan, he gave up the idea of hunting down the clone. Now that the real body is here, what's the point of the clone? From a distance, this creature silently looked at Jia Yan's clone, which was almost millions of kilometers away. For such a huge creature, millions of kilometers are not too far at all. In the distance, a terrifying momentum is also locking the middle-level strongmen of the galaxy here. Further behind were the galaxy-level helpers of this mid-level powerhouse. At this moment, they saw that the two most important powerhouses in this battlefield finally became hostile, and they all became serious and surging. 2. Of course, these galaxy-level powerhouses know that Jia Yan's true form is not the same creature as his clone, and they are definitely not comparable. They are at least much stronger. Therefore, they are also more solemn, even if there is only one enemy in front of them. But this enemy has too many tricks, especially those clones that can die together with the enemy. Once the number increases and they are surrounded, they will not be able to escape. Therefore, even if they dealt with the last Jia Yan, they did not have the slightest contempt, because their contempt had slowly disappeared after Jia Yan killed their friends several times. The rest is similar to the pressure of dealing with the previous Galaxy Intermediate. In the distance, the two parties were confronting each other. The difference is that here are several major galactic levels, and there is also an intermediate galactic being. On the other side, Jia Yan is just a giant mosquito that has reached the galaxy level, and the rest are his clones, as well as several battleships commanded by Jiarong who are parked behind him and have no role at all. These existences, which are less than half a star level, cannot play any role in this kind of battle. There are so many galactic level enemies, and it seems that that one is a mid-level galactic powerhouse. Is the ancestor actually going to fight such an enemy in his first real appearance? A subordinate next to Jiarong felt a little frightened by the fighting situation on the scene. But there is no way to do anything about it, because let alone them, even within the current Orion arms, except for the ancestor, there is no one else who can help the ancestor solve problems at this level of strength. Dad. Jiarong looked at the giant mosquitoes standing tall against the sky and facing a group of galaxy-level mosquitoes without retreating at all. For a moment, he actually got choked up. Because now he knows what kind of pressure this father, who has never been close to their mother and son, is experiencing. If the situation were different and he faced a group of venerables, he would probably go crazy. But this super strong giant mosquito father is like this, standing like a huge mountain in the sky, looking at the lives of their group of Orion arms from a distance, and seems to have been protecting everyone. Even if he encountered such a terrifying enemy lineup, he still did not take a step back. Let's go first, don't disturb our ancestors here. Jiarong calmed down and said he wanted to retreat first. No matter what kind of war will happen later, or what the outcome of this war will be in the future, they, the weakest creatures, will only be in the way. At this moment, he suddenly felt a little heartbroken, because he felt that he was very useless and could not help his father, who was only not much older than him. Oh, it's a pity. I have never hated it so much. My talent is so poor. I haven't inherited even half of this person's talent. Jiarong is pitiful, but even though he laments like this, he has no idea that Jia Yan's talent is only one of the confidence he has. If I have to say it, his talent of evolutionary beasts has indeed helped a lot, but the biggest help to him being able to live to this day and have his current strength is his own persistence and his own intelligence. If it weren't for these, he would be like the other senior evolved beasts who couldn't develop, and remain nameless in history. Not even evolved beasts can be counted. Walk. Boom. Above the Interstellar, in the face of a confrontation between several galaxy-level creatures, this group of battleships quickly retreated because they could not help in any way. Jia Yan silently felt that the battleship behind him retreated. He was also a little relieved. In fact, this was his true form that arrived on this battlefield. And it can't be said to be a coincidence, because everyone knows that this is near the final battlefield, so of course he will come here. No matter how far it is not far away. With his subspace talent, traveling through space is just like playing. So it's not that surprising to come here. Jia Yan. Just when Jia Yan felt a little reassured by the departure of his son Jia Rong from behind, in the picture occupied by the Galaxy class in front, the most conspicuous 80-kilometer large creature among all the Galaxy classes, suddenly spoke. "Hello, sir, I am Jia Yan." Jia Yan didn't feel any fear. He smiled lightly and responded calmly to the other party's question. "Haha, you are very good. Facing a mid-level creature from the galaxy, you don't feel that much fear." The galaxy-level mid-level creature didn't feel angry at all when he saw Jia Yan's egalitarian demeanor. If it were another junior powerhouse from the galaxy who spoke to him like this, he would have probably hit him with one blow. But if it were Jia Yan, who had already shown many abilities that were different from those of ordinary primary-level creatures in the galaxy during the Battle of the Orion Arm, then he wouldn't have any big feelings or be offended. Because Jia Yan has such equal strength, of course, he doesn't think that Jia Yan can really fight with a mid-level galaxy being like him. He can only say that he thinks that Jia Yan has the strength to fight with him. It was enough for him to look at Jia Yan differently and tolerate his equal attitude a little. "Sir, I don't mean to disrespect you, but you and your friends don't know the so-called attack on my Orion arm. Of course I will have some resentment towards you. If you can leave here, then I will see you in the future. I will still show my respect to you as an elder, but I don't know how." Jia Yan said calmly, and also said that if the other party was willing to leave, he would be willing to treat this mid-level galaxy being with the attitude of an elder. This is not a sign of weakness, but Jia Yan's sincerity. After all, fighting a mid-level galaxy being is different from his previous cross-level battles. It is extremely difficult. Jia Yan is not sure whether he can defeat the opponent. Moreover, he is not the only one around him. There were so many galaxy-level beings. Even if Jia Yan defeated them, there were so many galaxy-level beings around him for sneak attacks and reshooting. He estimated that he would still be in some danger. Therefore, if he can avoid fighting, Jia Yan lowers his head and recognizes the other person as his elder. It doesn't matter. After all, in the system of strong men in the universe, it doesn't matter if he sees a strong man who is higher than himself and calls him senior. Big deal. It's a pity that Luo Hua is deliberately ruthless and Jia Yan's resignation will only be a slight look down on him for these strong men. "Haha, Jia Yan, do you think this is possible?" The middle-level creature from the galaxy didn't even have time to answer. Another elementary-level creature from the galaxy next to him actually showed a bit of madness. He spoke rudely to Jia Yan. The mid-level galaxy powerhouse couldn't help but feel very angry, but since everyone was still a powerhouse from the same camp, he couldn't say much. After all, the current galaxy-level camp was also a guarantee for him. If it really happened, what an accident, then they are also creatures that can contain Jia Yan. Even if there is a certain gap between the initial levels of Xing, the gap will not be too big. Although he knows that Jia Yan has many methods and his yin-yang Dao strength, but even if he can still draw a tie or even win a small victory against a mid-level galaxy creature, it is definitely not at the level of being able to ignore ordinary primary-level galaxy creatures. So it was hard for him to blame the galaxy-level comrades around him. Yes, this is impossible. When we first came to this battlefield, our 15th Galaxy class said we would not retreat. What's more, we have already lost so much. It is absolutely impossible for us to return empty-handed, so, Jia Yan, just accept your fate. This mid-level galaxy creature smiled silently. "I see, you really can't retreat, but I won't accept my fate willingly. So, is our battle inevitable?" "Good." Jia Yan watched silently, looking for the galaxy-level beings in Shiyuan who did not form a team. Some of the galaxy-level powerhouses present have not yet arrived, which means that if he starts a war with the opponent now, it may be much better than starting the fight at the chosen location for the final decisive battle. It's a pity that Jia Yan gave up after thinking about these thoughts. After all, he is not in his strongest state yet. When he was rushing over, he suddenly felt the fighting situation of the clone here, so he appeared in the starry sky, and many methods were not arranged. Therefore, it is better not to fight this battle if possible. Hey, guys, today is just our first meeting, so this battle is temporarily put aside. If you want to pursue me, then you can just fight. Rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky only represents the author Buletanyu's views. If any content is found to be in violation of national laws, please delete it. Our position is only committed to providing a healthy and green reading platform. Thank you all. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletanyu. Chapter 1841. Jia Yan smiled, said no more, and flew back silently. He is guarding the Jiarong battleship ahead. Should we pursue it? Seeing that Jia Yan actually refused to start a fight, the group of galaxy-level powerhouses here were about to make a move. The middle-level galactic man also felt an impulse in his heart, but after thinking about it, he still shook his head. Forget it, this Jia Yan's strength is indeed quite good. I used my brainwave power to test him from a distance just now, and he was completely unmoved. This shows that his strength is that even if he loses to us, he will still bring a lot of trouble. I, or you, will suffer a certain amount of harm, or even die together. How about we wait, and next time everyone is gathered together, we can join forces to deal with him, so that everything is safe. This mid-level galaxy creature naturally knew what kind of strength Jia Yan was planning to continue to improve, but no matter what he thought, no matter how much he improved, he would not be as strong as their full staff, so he thought, forget it, save it. This time Jia Yan suddenly exploded with strength, causing him to be injured. When it came to dividing the spoils, he had little say. That's right, even in the current situation, he still believes that his side is the absolute superior. Even if Jia Yan's true body appears, he does not think that Jia Yan has the slightest possibility of turning defeat into victory. Or it should be said that they are not the winning side at all now, but are bullied by Jia Yan all the way to the border. But he still stubbornly believed that Jia Yan could not defeat them at all, so he had the wrong idea of not taking action now. Of course, any ordinary mid-level galaxy creature would think so. After all, the gap between the mid-level galaxy creature and the primary galaxy creature is as big as heaven and earth. This mid-level galaxy creature thinks that Jia Yan there is a certain possibility that if you let yourself get hurt before you die, you are already looking up to Jia Yan very highly. Everything was right. What was wrong was that he still underestimated Jia Yan. Didn't you come after me? Jia Yan, who was leaving in front, felt that the group of creatures behind him had no intention of pursuing them, and he immediately let out a sigh of relief. This was the first time that he had met the opponent's galaxy-level powerhouse and the galaxy intermediate powerhouse in their true form. This feeling is actually a bit like a war is about to break out. Unfortunately, neither side seemed to have any intention of starting a fight directly under such circumstances. Jia Yan saved several of his clones, and then rescued his son Jiarong, who might have been kidnapped. The opponent gained the merit of killing Jia Yan's clone. Although Jia Yan's real body appeared in the end and allowed him to escape, this was a big stain. However, compared with the advantages gained from the battle, these stains can be easily washed away. In short, no one suffered much loss. At most, Jia Yan lost part of his clone and suffered a bit of a loss. Perhaps in this way, the enemy's plot against Jiarong could be resolved, which satisfied Jia Yan very much. The clone is nothing to him. If there is time in the future, he can just continue to create it. Dad. When Jia Yan escorted the Jiarong battleship ahead and arrived inside an Orion Arm battleship group hundreds of millions of kilometers away, a young man who looked like an Earthling flew out of the Jiarong flagship. He is Jiarong. Although he admitted that Jia Yan's avatar who looked like an Earthling was his father, when he saw the giant mosquito as huge as a planet, he felt a sense of intimacy based on blood, so Jiarong had to admit that the giant mosquito was his real father. Yes. You can go back and check your body later. If everything is fine, you can think of ways to take revenge in the future. Jia Yan was also a little unnatural, because he had always used his earthly clone to speak to his son. Okay, then I'll go. I don't know about your earthling clone. Jiarong was a little afraid to ask. It's okay, he's still alive. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. When Jiarong heard this, he was extremely happy. He also thought that if Jia Yan died of the clone that looked like an earthling, there would be no such earthling father to continue to appear in his eyes. But he didn't know that this clone had indeed died just now. But Jia Yan was not surprised. The enemy would naturally take the initiative to deal with the clone that had been talking before. Besides, Jiarong's misunderstanding will not happen. In fact, what no one knows is that the previous clone of the earthling Jia Yan has died once, but didn't he create an identical one later? So Jiarong's worry was unnecessary, but Jia Yan was afraid that he would be a little weird when he faced a new earthling Jia Yan again, so he told a white lie. After a few words with Jia Yan, who was in giant mosquito state, Jiarong quickly left. Because facing Jia Yan, he really couldn't breathe. Not only because there is a certain gap between him and Jia Yan, but also because the giant mosquito is too powerful and carries too many auras. Inside the Orion arm, it is like a god. Being, where does he have the confidence to be with this being and still call him father? To be honest, he has always preferred to talk with the earthling Jia Yan. Although the reputation of that clone is not low, it is only limited to the earthlings, and because Jia Yan has been active in the real body, the earthling clone is not very active. Even many of the new generation of earthlings only know the strongest person on earth and are not familiar with it, so Jiarong prefers to talk to that clone without any pressure. Jia Yan didn't doubt his presence and waved his foot to let Jiarong leave. Okay, now that I have entered the subspace, the pictures and news about me here should be transmitted to the Orion arm and the enemy, right? Anyway, this is nothing, it is also a morale impact on our own side, plus the enemy will definitely have a final decisive battle with me here, and that's enough. Jia Yan retreated into the subspace. It was as if Jiarong felt a little uncomfortable in front of him. He was not very comfortable being surrounded by so many people. For Jia Yan, what he liked most was still being alone. Single feeling. Therefore, entering the twisted subspace to rest is his best choice. In the subspace, the talent he obtained by chance in the past has now become a unique move of Jia Yan. Even a domain lord level expert, Jia Yan doubts whether he can still perform it after he penetrates 8 degrees into the subspace. Kill him. Of course, it is not so easy to get inside the 8-dimensional subspace. Territory lord level existences are too terrifying. Not to mention that they may even be able to kill Jia Yan in the 8-dimensional subspace. It is only said that after entering before the 8th degree, Jia Yan was probably killed by the opponent. This was a huge threat to Jia Yan. It's just that having this kind of subspace ability is always good for Jia Yan. The bigger benefit is that now, when he wants to be alone, he can enter the subspace quietly and feel at home anytime and anywhere. It's very cool. Now I have to prepare to adjust my strength. I guess it won't be that easy to deal with in future battles. The mid-level strongman from the galaxy just now also saw my clone's fighting ability. My real body is actually stronger now. The fighting method is also to use the meteorite explosion of Yin and Yang Dao. After all, the combat power of this explosion is indeed very powerful, and it uses the meteorite prepared earlier, so there is no need to waste the current power, so I will adopt it. But this fighting method has been seen through by the opponent, so it will be a bit difficult to deal with him in the future. Of course, there are too many fighting methods that my real body can use. If he really thinks that my real body he only has this kind of fighting ability, so I guess he will be surprised in the future. Jia Yan thought about it and felt that he still had a certain chance. At worst, just like what he just thought about, he chose to escape. Even the Domain Lord may not be able to easily hurt the 8-dimensional subspace talent. Could it be that this mid-level galaxy can a strong person still be hurt? After figuring out the joints, Jia Yan completely settled down. He was recovering from the fatigue caused by the long journey, and he was also thinking about the location of the final decisive battle between himself and the opponent. He was going to repeat his old tricks, and after finding a location, he started to lay out some traps there. Although the enemy should be prepared for his traps, Jia Yan still believes that this is necessary. What's more, even if the opponent is prepared, they can clear or see the traps in the shallow space, but what about the deeper ones? The assassin who came to deal with Jia Yan last time brought countless machines to detect the shallow subspace, but Jia Yan still arranged many back UPS in the deeper subspace, which made him confused. At the peak of the star's strength, he defeated the assassin and surpassed the level to defeat a super terrifying genius at the galaxy level. And this time, even if the enemies are all galaxy level, and there is an intermediate galaxy level being, Jia Yan can find that their technological capabilities are not much stronger than that assassin, so even if they have machines to explore the interior of subspace, they will never be able to do so. It would be too much. So Jia Yan decided that this time he would still arrange a slightly deeper trap. As long as it succeeds, Jia Yan is imagining that it will be very interesting to give this group of galaxy-level surprises. Okay, since I'm here to arrange the main battlefield, I have to think of a place that suits them and is willing to fight. This place will definitely not be on our side. We must choose the central line, and then the enemy will have certain conveniences. With so many conditions, there are not many places to choose from. Jia Yan kept thinking about the details, and then quickly analyzed where he should set the trap. Several key points were rejected by Jia Yan one by one, because he had to consider the possibility that the enemy would be so stupid to take the bait. While imagining the setting, he figured out many joints. Jia Yan was very happy and thought he had won. But imagination is imagination. Whether the enemy will be fooled and whether the war can be carried out so smoothly is another topic. But according to Jia Yan's opinion, this war shouldn't be that easy. After all, among the enemies, there is a middle-level galaxy being who Jia Yan still doesn't know the limit of his combat strength. Even if this mid-level galaxy existence, in Jia Yan's view, is just a strong man who can reach the mid-level galaxy, but the mid-level galaxy is the middle-level galaxy, and for a beginner like Jia Yan, it is still a tower. An insurmountable mountain. Okay, now that I have figured out so many details, I will wait a few days to see the enemy's reaction. If they do not act according to my ideas, then the plan will have to change quickly. For a moment, Jia Yan became quiet inside the subspace. The huge mosquito is like a prehistoric demon. Inside the subspace, it is like a terrifying monster that chooses people to eat, ready to go. But after it calmed down, the big mosquito seemed to be very quiet and completely motionless. The eyes of the giant mosquito were shining with the light of some thoughts, but it didn't seem to be actually thinking about anything. At Jia Yan's level, he is completely able not to think too much about things. Only this time, because he saved Jia Rong, who was also his nominal son, and even after marrying Satsamakan, Jia Yan suddenly felt that he had become infinitely closer to this son, as if he was his own son. At the same time, he felt a little ashamed of his son and wanted to benefit his son more. Forget it, I'll just give him some benefits. Besides, he is really my son. For me now, some things have been put aside. Jia Yan really didn't feel like a real father towards his son towards Jia Rong. So now, he felt that he wanted to make up for Jia Rong, so he arrived at the subspace of the external fleet without anyone noticing. From the subspace, Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh when he looked at Jia Rong, who was in the office with a sad face and thinking about the war. This son is actually not that bad, he is good enough. If he had been born as an ordinary creature, he would probably have gained quite a reputation through military exploits or other means, right? But because he was limited by his status as Jia Yan's son, he became the strong second generation in everyone's mind. If it weren't for him having such a father, he wouldn't be able to. The words about achieving his current identity and status are probably with him to this day. But no one knows that this second generation strong man who seems to have a smooth life is actually a person who works so hard in private. This may be unbelievable to others, right? Puff. While Jiarong was still thinking about something, he suddenly felt dizzy. I want to sleep. It's impossible. I am a powerful person. Even if I never sleep, it won't have much impact. Why do I want to sleep? Is it possible that I am so tired? Jiarong held his head in a strange way, then climbed into bed and went to sleep. Not long after, he had a dream. Rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky only represents the author Buletanyu's views. If any content is found to be in violation of national laws, please delete it. Our position is only committed to providing a healthy and green reading platform. Thank you all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletanyu. Chapter 1842. The person in the dream was his Jia Yan, who had always had complicated feelings, but it was not the giant mosquito Jia Yan, but the Jia Yan who looked like an earthling. Xiaorong, today, I will let you understand the true appearance of Yin and Yang Dao. At the same time, I will give you some real positive and antimatter. Jia Yan, who looks like a man, silently looks at Jiarong in his dream. This Jiarong seems to have transformed into the child he was in, feeling like a child. Puff. Then, Jiarong felt that Jia Yan, who looked like an earthman in front of him, suddenly released the power of brain waves. For a moment, he only felt endless energy appearing around him. What is this? Energy. Jiarong was shocked at first, because other people's energy surged into his side, and it was the power of a galaxy-level powerhouse. He, a mere venerable-level powerhouse, could not resist at all. But soon, he suddenly came to his senses because he didn't feel any pain. After all, this is a dream. Well. Jiarong opened his eyes silently, and then he felt that his earthly father Jia Yan was still in front of him, but everything around them turned into a sea of energy. What kind of power is this? The energy contained two positive and negative senses of strength, namely, I am in you, and you are in me, which surprised Jiarong. In the normal state of the outside world, Jiarong would never be able to feel Jia Yan's power, but in this dream-like place, he could really feel this power. The power of positive and negative is the original idea of yin and yang. From the realization of this power, I got the idea of yin and yang, and then created yin and yang. You can feel it carefully. This is the meaning of yin and yang. The most basic and fundamental law. Jia Yan said calmly to Jiarong. Good. Jiarong didn't know if it was a dream or something else, but he quickly realized it carefully. The more he realized, the more shocked and surprised the expression on Jiarong's face became. Because he felt that Jia Yan's positive and negative sense of power was completely terrifying beyond his imagination. Moreover, this level of terror is not due to the terrifying power, but because the positive and negative power of yin and yang Dao is extremely subtle. It's like the positive and negative forces are constantly flying in the air, but they don't collide with each other at all, maintaining balance. Other strong people who study yin-yang Dao don't quite understand the essence of yin-yang Dao, so they can only say that they understand the surface of yin-yang Dao. Even the star-level creatures don't have a deep understanding. But Jia Yan, the creator, is naturally not that bad. his understanding and perception of yin and yang dao, or the positive and negative forces, are profound and unimaginable by others. Jiarong felt the positive and negative forces in front of him, and he was deeply fascinated by it. After all, he is also a venerable level powerhouse, and it can be said that he has learned yin and yang tao very early, so he has more understanding and emotion about the power of yin and yang tao in front of him. As expected of the yin and yang tao that Jia Yan personally performed, the basic positive and negative forces made Jiarong feel as if he had been given the finishing touch, and instantly understood many yin and yang tao principles that he had not understood before. And he felt that if he came out of the dream and verified that everything in the dream was not a dream, then he would be able to gain a lot. I see, this is how the forces of good and evil are balanced. I was always wrong before. I thought that the forces of good and evil were distinct and existed in opposition. Now I know that they are indistinguishable from each other. Jiarong nodded, feeling the last bit of realization he could feel. And when he felt this, the positive and negative power and energy in front of him disappeared instantly. Jiarong was a little regretful, but Jia Yan's voice continued to sound, "It's not a good thing for you to see too much at once. In short, try to write down the scene as much as possible. It may be useful in the future." Jia Yan did not dare to say whether he would show this to his son again in the future, because he might not be leaving the Orion arm for too long. "Next, I will give you another greatest benefit, which is the antimatter and antimatter I possess. Because you are my son and have my cells in your body, so I want to give it a try. If it doesn't succeed, there is nothing I can do." Jia Yan silently released a stream of energy material in his dream, which looked like energy and an entity. In short, in this dream, Jiarong felt that the material looked a little trance-like, like a small tree. Yes, it was Jia Yan who sensed the small antimatter tree and devoured it as the power of evolutionary mutation. This small tree was devoured by Jia Yan at a later stage. After that, Jia Yan created a counter-force fighting method and even created the yin and yang dao. Jiarong, on the other hand, was a son who was born by Satsuma Quan using genetic material when he was still relatively weak and before he even got the little tree, so Jiarong did not carry this kind of positive and antimatter. What Jia Yan wants to do now is to let his son have more positive and negative qualities. Of course, this is also because Jiarong has his cell inheritance, otherwise Jia Yan would not do this to others, because other people's cells and tolerance are definitely incomparable to his. Even Jia Yan couldn't guarantee whether Jiarong could survive. If not, he would have to give up. It might hurt a little, just bear with it. Jia Yan let the phantom-like substance of the small tree get closer to Jiarong's body. Of course, this small tree cannot be the one that Jia Yan swallowed back then, because that small tree has long since become a part of Jia Yan's body, so how can it be retrieved? What Jia Yan takes out now is just a kind of memory. But there are indeed things in this commemorative matter that can allow others to obtain the benefits of positive and antimatter. At least Jia Yan will never harm Jiarong. Although he was unwilling to admit it before, now he has generally agreed with the existence of his son. No father would harm his son, at least Jia Yan is not that kind of person. But the pain of this fusion is real. Otherwise, Jia Yan would not have taken advantage of such a dream-like environment to help Jiarong. In reality, it might really make Jiarong faint from pain. Ah! When Xiaoshu merged into Jiarong's body, his childlike body suddenly burst into screams of agony. "Hold it!" Jia Yan reminded. Jiarong did as he was told and endured it, but his head was covered with sweat. If someone saw Jia Yan's son in the outside world, they would find that this young man who looked like a young man from Earth was sweating and trembling uncontrollably. But he refrained from shouting. You must know that Jiarong is just a strong second generation who has not endured too much pain. He felt such pain for the first time and was able to endure it. I have to say that it is really possible that he inherited some of Jia Yan's qualities. Genes, because even perseverance is so amazing. Jia Yan was very satisfied with his son's performance and couldn't help but nod and smile. This is like his own son. Jia Yan smiled, but of course he did not completely stand by and watch. Even though the pain of the current fusion was completely inferior to what he felt back then, because he was an evolved beast, he could have the bonus of not dying no matter how painful the evolution was. Jiarong doesn't have this bonus, so he has to help. Release as much gentle power as possible to make Jiarong feel better. Well. Jiarong finally stopped sweating profusely. Very good. You've survived it? When you wake up tomorrow, you will be the most like me person in the entire universe. Jia Yan smiled, and then his earthly figure slowly retreated. Finally, Jiarong also completely fell into a real dream. The next day. Huh? Wasn't the one yesterday a dream? I actually reached half a star level. After sleeping all night, Jiarong felt refreshed, and then he also felt that his brainwave power had actually improved a bit because of the dream last night, reaching a level he had always wanted to break through, but could not. A half-star level that cannot be broken through. Just a nap? You know, he struggled for several months before, but finally came to the conclusion that he had to wait for about a year before he could be promoted to semi-star level, and it was still possible to fail. But after such a sleep, he rose to half-star level, and he immediately understood that the dream he had last night could not be a lie. Dad. Jiarong quickly finished dressing and flew to an area where Jia Yan had previously entered the subspace, looking for the shadow of the giant Mosquito's father. Okay, don't say anything else. Anyway, you have to work hard in the future. It's not in vain that I put so much energy into helping you improve. Suddenly, Jia Yan's rich male voice appeared in Jiarong's ears. Okay, I will definitely work hard, thank you Dad. Jiarong's eyes were filled with tears for some reason. Years of hatred, at this moment, fell apart. Oh, this child. Feeling the young man's emotions, somewhere in the subspace, Jia Yan let out a long sigh. The only uncomfortable thing about Jiarong is that he has not had a father since he was a child, and he even fell deeply into the emotion of hating Jia Yan, his cheap father. He has struggled with this emotion for many years, always wanting to surpass Jia Yan, and then let him. Jia Yan admitted that he was with his mother. Although he has not exceeded it now, and may never be able to exceed it in his lifetime, at least his ultimate wish has been achieved. That is, Jia Yan silently recognized this son, and became a real couple with his mother, Satsuma Kono. Dad, I will work hard and I will never lose your prestige in the future. Jiarong flew back to the battleship group. After greatly improving Jiarong's strength and future potential, Jia Yan's last worries were put to rest. In the future, as long as he can hold back or drive away the coalition forces and give Jiarong some time, he will surely be able to enter the stellar level, and then he will also have the opportunity to replace himself and protect the Earth and even the Orion arm. That would put Jia Yan at ease. Speaking of which, what I did yesterday really wasted my energy. Now I need to take a good rest. If the other party provokes me during this period, just tell them not to take it. Jia Yan's efforts to improve Jiarong's strength, even if they were of the same lineage, wasted a lot of Jia Yan's energy, and even his energy was faintly reduced. Fortunately, he is an evolved beast. If another galaxy class had done this, he might have been sluggish for a few years, but he is an evolved beast, and his energy level increases extremely quickly. It may only take a month or half a month to fully regain his strength. In short, Jia Yan will definitely not do this in the future. Firstly, there is no other receptor that is so compatible with Jia Yan. Secondly, because he has done this, there is no benefit to him, and he will have to fall off for a while. Strength, this can be fatal to the strong. But doing this for Jiarong is not a big loss. If Jia Yan hadn't improved to his current strength, it would be possible for him to do this. He would have wanted to do it before. Now just wait slowly. The entire star field around the Orion Arm is changing. The current Orion Arm war is no longer just a matter of affecting one star field of the Orion Arm. Several major star fields around, including some small star clusters that cannot be called star fields but are independent from the major star fields, are all watching this battle. Because they are too close, apart from being able to transcend objects at first, now due to the involvement of the war, these star fields, star clusters, and even just some wandering galaxies can no longer escape the influence of the Orion Arm war, and they have chosen themselves. Stand in line. For example, some chose the coalition and have been serving as a place for the coalition's reserve resources to arrive. They even sent troops to help the coalition before. Others chose to stand in the Orion Arm. Although many star fields in this team were all on the side of the coalition at the beginning, when Jia Yan sent out clones, these star fields that were already swinging in the middle were part of it fell to the Orion Arm. Even after several previous battles, the coalition forces completely withdrew from the Orion Arm, and this caused about half of the star field to start moving towards the Orion Arm. Now if the Orion Arm wins this final battle, then the coalition forces will definitely be defeated, and the supporting star field behind them will begin to be unlucky. The coalition forces came from far away, and Jia Yan's Orion Arm was just beginning to show its dominance. It would be very difficult to expedition to such a distant star field. At most, he would fly over and cause trouble, although it would also cause a lot of damage. Destruction, but it is hard to say that the entire star field will be destroyed. But these nearby star fields are different, especially those star fields that are still supporting the coalition forces. There are even a large number of troops in the star fields within the coalition forces. They are already stuck in the quagmire, and it is too late to leave. By the time Jia Yan won, and it might take just a few months to deal with them, which is already easy for the Orion Arm. On the contrary, the same is true for those star regions that support the Orion Arm. If the Orion Arm fails, then they will also be unlucky. Rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky only represents the author Buletinu's views. If any content is found to be in violation of national laws, please delete it. Our position is only committed to providing a healthy and green reading platform. Thank you all. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletinu. Chapter 1843. Therefore, the surrounding star fields are all paying close attention to this war with great nervousness. Time passed little by little, and the general situation of the confrontation was also revealed in the star field. This is a confrontational army that makes the surrounding star field become somewhat eclipsed. The armies of both sides, one of which is the coalition army, have come from afar. The number of soldiers is not exaggerated, but each one is an elite soldier and a strong general. Their number reaches the star level, which is enough to wipe out the entire surrounding star field. On the other side is the Orion Arm, a star field that was silent before and was even called a wilderness. Because of the emergence of the evolved beast Jia Yan, it has turned into an unimaginable terrifying beast. I don't know how many soldiers are in the army in the star field, and on the surface, although they are not very strong, because of the unique combination of yin and yang dao, the strength of this star field is also very terrifying, and with the use of the numerical advantage can overwhelm the coalition army. In other words, if the coalition forces did not have the Galaxy class, the Orion Arm might be able to resist the coalition forces without relying on Jia Yan. Of course, everything is unknown. The reality is that the Orion Arm has Jia Yan, and the enemy also has an extremely powerful Galaxy class, and there is even a Galaxy mid-level existence. The war between the two sides, at least as of now, has an unimaginable outcome for both sides. On the surface, there are 10 Galaxy-level people on one side, and only one Galaxy-level person on the other side. On the other side of the 11, there is an intermediate Galaxy-level being, and there is only one Xi-level powerhouse on this side. For many people, at least on the surface, the Orion arm cannot win. But in fact, the Orion arm actually reached a confrontation with the Allied forces. The Allied forces, which should have crushed the Orion arm in one go, were actually willing to confront the Orion arm, and were even very cautious. The reason for all this is definitely not that the coalition forces are too cautious, or that the coalition forces are too timid. But inside the Orion arm, there is actually quite a lot of strength. The most outstanding one who is not weak is Jia Yan, the last support within the Orion arm, and also their sea-fixing needle, the evolutionary beast. In previous battles, his true form did not actually fight, but when his clone did fight, he was already inextricably linked with the enemy. Even using his clones alone, he was able to kill many of the enemy's extremely powerful galaxy beginners, who were supposed to be as powerful as his real body. And this is why the enemy has to pay attention to Jia Yan, and even take an extremely serious attitude. Of course, even now, the enemy still does not believe that just relying on a Zing-level powerhouse such as Jia Yan can fight against more than a dozen Xi-level people here. Even if they do not choose to take action, it is only because of the enemy. I just don't want Jia Yan to die together. You must know that his clones can kill the first-level galaxies, so the real body is definitely stronger than this. If he wants to drag others to die together, he may be able to kill more than half of the dozen or so galaxy levels here. It is difficult to practice at the galaxy level, and no one wants to die, so they are very cautious. But even if they are cautious, such a huge temptation from evolved beasts that can improve their own strength is definitely difficult for them to resist, so each of these people are waiting to see the galaxy intermediate the strong ones, who is stronger and who is weaker with Jia Yan. Although they are ordinary elementary existences in the galaxy, they will definitely not be stupid enough to confront Jia Yan personally. Haha, the coalition forces over there are also inviting foreign aid. One day, Jia Yan received such a piece of news in his own subspace. Although this news was not a surprise to Jia Yan, it was still a bit of a headache. So many primary and intermediate galaxy-level beings have gathered in their Orion arms. This has shown that this group of galaxy levels are originally the type that are good at making friends and are quite active. So they are now short of manpower and have to find them from the outside. It's a matter of course for people. But Jia Yan was very solemn. Because this time, it seems that the other party is just looking for some less useful stars in the free market, but he has already seen the signs. If the other party doesn't think Jia Yan is so easy to kill, he will find other stars. Galaxy-level cooperation, maybe even a territory lord-level existence. Although the territory lord is coming, Jia Yan is also sure that the Zerg Queen may intervene, but in that case, Jia Yan will owe the other party a favor and will even be controlled by others in the future. That is not what Jia Yan wants to see. Fortunately, they haven't thought about giving other strong players a piece of the pie, so I have some room to change the situation. And I think that even if they want to find it, they will definitely do it after losing the first battle. Because they have never failed once, they go to the Zing level to share their interests. This is something that any Xi level does not want to see. Jia Yan analyzed the opponent's thoughts. After all, he is also a galaxy level person, and he is quite sure about the thoughts of those in the galaxy level. Just like himself, if he can share the spoils with someone of the same level, he will definitely not looking for another person. Therefore, they will never easily find other galactic levels to take advantage of their own interests. Then my chance. Only one time. Jia Yan knew that the enemy would definitely find someone of the same level or even stronger after the first failure. They were also absolutely sure that if they lost in one battle, they would not all die. And here is Jia Yan's opportunity. If we kill all of them at one opportunity, their army will be defeated without a fight. The entire army will be gone, and no one will continue to hold my information and go to the outside world to find help. Kill me. After Jia Yan figured out these joints, he suddenly felt the pressure increase greatly. Because what he wants to do is to kill a group of galaxy-level people at once, and among them, there is an existence that has reached the intermediate level of galaxy. Can this existence's strength compete with him, or even be stronger than him? They were all unknown, and under this situation, Jia Yan actually became a target, and even wanted to kill this mid-level galaxy existence together. It's not that I'm too ambitious, but the situation has to do this. Effort. Jia Yan fell into his own preparations again. The subspace he was in at this time was exactly where he was preparing to deal with the enemy. This time, of course, Jia Yan did everything possible. After all, war is like this, not to mention that he is already one of the smaller numbers, so he is under a lot of pressure. If he does not use certain tactics, he would be a fool. Jia Yan's strength is unimaginably terrifying to many star-level players and even ordinary galaxy-level players. But for a powerful person who has reached the middle level of the galaxy, it is a bit impossible to crush, so he can only use some special methods. The same method as when fighting assassins is to borrow mines in subspace. In this mine laying, the enemy must know my past information and will definitely be on guard against me. Then they will definitely not accept the battlefield I have set up. If the enemy does not accept it, I will have to guess their hearts. Jia Yan knew that the enemy would never be so stupid as to follow him to the minefield. So he has to guess the enemy's heart, or in some way, let the enemy's seemingly stupid self enter his default zone. Jia Yan was thinking about something while laying mines. After the previous battle, they should also be able to see that my talent in subspace is absolutely powerful, so they will definitely be on guard against my talent in subspace, and even to some extent, prevent me from using my talent in subspace to escape. This is what I will do when I meet all my enemies. So, can I take advantage of this? Jia Yan knows that the enemy is very worried about the existence of subspace talents, because they are afraid that they will use subspace talents to escape from the place. For many creatures, subspace is an area that is difficult to reach, even if the galaxy level has already. This point is not so applicable. No matter how bad the galaxy level powerhouse is, he can still do it if his true body enters 1 or 2 levels of space. But in fact, Jia Yan was able to enter the 8th level of subspace, which was unknown to many people. Even if the enemies came this time, Jia Yan could not imagine whether they would know this. Even if they knew it, they didn't have any instruments to check whether Jia Yan was in the 8th level space. Then the enemy's plan is to restrain Jia Yan before he enters the 8th level space, or in other words, find a place where it is difficult to enter the 8th level space. So, I chose this place. Jia Yan looked around while laying out his own thunder in the subspace around the 6th floor. This is a land on the edge of the Orion Arm. It seems that due to the war hundreds of thousands of years ago, the subspace here has been in chaos until now. Even the subspace above the 8th floor has been destroyed by a huge incomparable. The distortion was completely destroyed. In this kind of subspace, it cannot be said that Jia Yan cannot enter the 8th floor, but it will be much more difficult than other places. Even if he wants to enter, it will become a bit dangerous, causing him to be very slow and be caught up by the enemies behind him. They probably chose the battlefield here. I can't reach the 8th floor, so they think that the areas below the 8th floor are their effective attack range, and I can't escape. Jia Yan had been thinking about the enemy's battle plan, and then smiled. He already had a plan in mind. That is to use this area to beat them into confusion. The enemy will definitely choose such terrain to fight him. And Jia Yan buried his meteorite explosives in a 6-dimensional or 7-dimensional space. Generally speaking, enemies cannot find such a place, because no galaxy-level being will always maximize his detection capabilities. After examining such a large area of the star field, it is no less than finding a grain of sand on the Earth. After all, the starry sky is too vast. It is certain to use instruments to check, but ordinary instruments can never reach below the 3rd floor, let alone the 6th and 7th floors. At least Jia Yan has not found any star field that has explored the subspace above the fourth floor so far. Scientific instruments. Therefore, Jia Yan is confident that as long as the enemy chooses this place, his meteorite explosives will not be discovered. Very good, this will give you greater confidence. While Jia Yan was making arrangements, he was a little surprised to find that outside the starry sky where he was, some coalition reconnaissance warships were driving around nearby. This should be the coalition subspace exploration vessel. Haha, I guessed it right. They were also having a headache about my subspace talent. So they finally found this extremely distorted starry sky near the confrontation area and discovered the vague distortion of the octave. Will they? Wouldn't you be very happy and then seduce me? Jia Yan smiled slightly. At that time, the enemy will find that they have been lured, but the place they were lured to is not advantageous to them. Instead, Jia Yan defeated an entire army. Very good, this script, I don't know if it will be what I imagined. Jia Yan arranged it quickly. And just as he imagined, the enemy's detection team was very happy after discovering that there was an internal distortion in this vast area, and reported the news to the top. Ha ha ha, great. The most elusive thing about Jia Yan is his subspace talent. There are rumors that his subspace talent has reached the 8th dimension of subspace. It is also a place that is difficult for us galaxy level to attack. We have been worried about whether he will take advantage of this space strength, so as long as we lure him here this time, we will definitely limit his performance between lines. A galaxy level powerhouse from the coalition forces who got this information laughed directly. You know, they not only have trouble with Jia Yan's strength, but also with his subspace talent. Because from the perspective of this group of allied galaxy-level warriors, with their combined strength, a mere junior galaxy-class warrior would never be able to fight against them. Then we should be prepared for his escape. What makes them even more troublesome is that Jia Yan possesses the most convenient escape talent in the entire galaxy, subspace talent. He has even developed this talent to such a deep level that he can reach the 8th level of subspace. This makes it difficult for them to capture Jia Yan after they have defeated him. There is great concern. After all, their purpose is to capture Jia Yan and turn it into a drug that enhances his strength. But if Jia Yan uses his subspace talent to escape, wouldn't all their efforts be in vain? Now, after receiving such good news, this galaxy-level powerhouse was of course extremely happy. Don't be too happy. Be careful. This is the fog created by Jia Yan. What's the fog? Do you think that Jia Yan actually created such a large octave distortion in order to make us fall for him? Ha ha ha, you think too highly of him. If he created such a large octave distortion, if he has the strength, then he is not the elementary galaxy level, but a territory lord. With this kind of strength, he can just slap us to death, and what kind of conspiracy is he planning? Rebirth of the giant mosquito in the starry sky only represents the author Buletinu's views. If any content is found to be in violation of national laws, please delete it. Our position is only committed to providing a healthy and green reading platform. Thank you all.